Is worth the streaming. That sounds pretty good.
Hey, what's up,
bros?
Hey, everybody!
What's going on?
Happy Halloween! Cheers! Woo!
Drink up, bros. Got your Reveler of Bacchus here, just chilling out, celebrating the god, getting wasted, all the cool stuff. Woo!
Right.
This is apple cider. The beer's over here. That'll come later.
And here with you all tonight is Lady Stoneheart.
Lady Stoneheart can't talk. What are you doing?
That's true. I was actually going to surprise you, Matt, by not talking this entire live stream.
But there's no cut across your throat. What's going on here?
Oh shit, that's right. I forgot. Hang on a second. You introduce yourself to everybody. I'm going to be back.
All right. Lady Stoneheart will be back with a fresh cut across her throat. That's going to happen. Sup, guys? How's it going? You ready to talk some witches? I went for the douchiest version of myself I could, and I think I nailed it. I can't see right now. This is perfect. Yeah, that's right, LML. Just going to cut her throat. Holy shit, she's doing it.
Cut my own throat. This is not how it happened in canon, you guys.
Yeah,
but
where's
this is
Jingle
how it's
Bell?
happening now. This is how it's happening now. All right.
This is incredible.
It just looks like a choker.
Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like.
Ta-da! It's couture, Lady Stoneheart.
Oh, wait. I did the wrong one. Show and broadcast. Stop presenting. Okay. I think they should be... Okay, there we go. I accidentally dropped out your camera for a second. No big deal.
Okay, no big deal.
It's... Oh, right. LML wants drips on the...
Okay, we can do that. We can do that. Do we want like little teardrop drips or just like kind of like this? Like
Jingle Bell's tears.
Oh, okay. I'll put one Jingle Bell tear. There. Right
Aegon, no.
I've never actually done makeup on a webcam before. So
yeah, this is the first.
This is the first. Oh man. Yeah, this is whoever the makeup artist is. Game of Thrones is crying right now on this live stream.
Oh, she's here. She's ready.
I know, right? This is that level. Yeah.
Eliana said this is the best version of me, and that might be true.
I'm digging it.
I think this is just my life now.
Really digging it, you guys.
So if anyone isn't aware, this isn't actually Lady Stoneheart. This is Shakespeare of Thrones.
Hello.
And yeah, professional makeup designer.
Yes, I know. Thank you. I do it myself, as you can see.
Sanrixian will be joining us whenever she gets there.
As soon as she gets out of work.
As soon as she can. She's a little witch that could. So she'll be here. I think she's gonna be Tiana. I think that's what she said. That
makes sense. She was Tiana at Con of Thrones, and that would make sense that she would be using that costume again, I think.
It's an easy one, and it's just like matches her style anyway.
Totally.
I'm not sure what the difference between Tiana of the Tower Sanrixian and Sanrixian is. I think they're the same person.
Didn't Tiana of the Tower like cause miscarriages and stuff? Like that's a little bit dark. I don't know if Mallory would go that far.
I don't know what her powers are, to be honest.
Was it miscarriages or were they deformed babies? Come on, people, help me out with my Targ history.
Answer her question, because I don't know.
Please, I'm terrible at the Targ history.
This is from Cerns of the Dragon, so... Pat Sponagle is here.
No way! Hey, Pat!
Pat!
Man.
Oh, what a wonderful human being Pat is.
He is a wonderful human being. He's probably the nicest person on Twitter, and then when I met him at Con of Thrones, I was like, yeah, he's just as nice in real life, so...
He was adorable at all times.
Yeah. If you guys don't follow Pat, what are you doing with your life? Because he's literally the nicest person.
Not living your best life, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, I haven't drinking anything yet, so
I
back
can't
off,
believe that,
LML.
actually.
But I will, because I got this one ready to go tonight. One of the
Very
ones I had to
nice.
try very hard to get, the Omegang Bend the Knee, a golden ale brewed with honey. I've been saving this one because it sounds delicious.
Oh, wow. That's like a season 7 brew.
Oh,
Using that bend the knee action there.
all revelers of Bacchus bend the knees all the time. That's how we roll.
My mom is watching, by the way. Hi, Mama.
Oh, camera stuck on Lauren? Oh, hang on a second.
Oh, it's stuck on me?
Yeah, there we go. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, everyone. Don't want you to have to be looking at my fabulous choker for that long.
I'm sorry. I forgot when I click you on your thing, it stays that way. Fun part of streaming.
Cool. Yeah, everybody, this is my first live stream like ever, so be gentle. Be gentle.
Go the other way. Go hard on Lauren.
Oh, yes. My name is also Lauren. You can call me Lauren. You can call me Shakes. My nickname was Shakes in high school, too. It was a thing. Everybody knew me as the Shakespeare person. It's always been that way.
So this is a long-term thing, huh?
Yeah, I even had it on a shirt in high school for drama club. Like, we all had our nicknames, and mine was Shakes. So it's been a nickname for about 15 years now. I don't know what I did with that shirt, and that makes me really mad.
Okay, you can just like make another one.
I could.
Bernie, so I have to be
OHS
PG rated.
drama on the back, Shakes. No, you don't have to be PG rated. You don't.
Like, seriously, who could censor Bernie? The woman is a force of nature onto herself. Oh, by the way, guys, is the camera fixed? Can you see me? We'll see in a second when the chat catches up.
So this is actually my third costume this week for Halloween.
Third?
Yeah.
Ah.
I went to a dead poet Halloween party.
Mm-hmm.
I was Sappho. I made my own lyre out of cardboard and rubber bands. And today I work at a children's hospital, so I was Jessie from Toy Story, because a lot of us in my department dressed up as cartoon characters. Yeah.
I'll be right back. 1 second.
Okay.
You entertain the chat. Go.
You're leaving me alone? Oh my goodness. Hi, everybody. What's going on? Oh, good. That wasn't very long. I was about to start reciting Shakespeare.
I don't know what she's saying. It could be anything. Could have ruined everything. I can't even hear yet. Hang on a second. There we go.
People talk about when they monologue, but when I monologue, it's literal monologuing, like reciting a monologue that Shakespeare wrote. So just so you know, when in doubt, I'm going to start doing that.
Shakes has jokes. That's what we're learning here.
I don't know if they're called jokes, but we'll go with that.
Japes. They're called japes.
Oh, what do you do in the hospital? Vanessa asked. I am a music therapy intern, actually. I am studying music. I have been studying music for 4 years formally. And as part of my degree, I have to do a year-long internship at a hospital. Well, anywhere really, but I chose to do it at a children's hospital. So after I do that, I can be certified and I can actually get paid. So that would be really nice.
Getting paid.
Right. That's the goal in life. Well.
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of.
Sometimes.
Yeah, if you're like singing Bittersweet Symphony by the Verve.
What, are you me in high school? What's happening?
It just came to me. You know how it goes.
That is how it goes.
Bittersweet symphony, this life.
Oh no! I just revealed how flimsy these things are.
Slave to money, then you die.
Oof! Apparently, I should have had you sing on the video.
There might be more. So when are we going to get this started? When are we actually going to talk about witches? I feel
Let's do this. So,
yeah,
this is what happened. Actually, I should probably just do a real intro. Over the last 2 days, Lauren, you put yours up on Monday. I put mine up yesterday. The two of us looked at the three witches from Macbeth, or the quote-unquote weird sisters. There's different names for them: wayward sisters, word sisters. It kind of depends on the translation, apparently.
Basically all the same thing.
They all mean the same thing. They mean early English before dictionary.com. So
really creepy ass powerful women. Emphasis on the powerful.
That's what the stream's about, the super powerful creepy women, which is why Sanrixian's coming later.
Yes.
I looked at this topic more from a influences standpoint. I looked at it from legends and myths and how he adapted it, with the mostly focusing on the three Norns in the Fates, or the Norns from Norse mythology, the Fates from Greek mythology, and then translating that over, finding some connections, normal Matt shit. Laura, why don't you explain what your essay was? And video. There's a video too. You should watch the video.
Yes. Much clearing of throat. So my angle is Shakespeare. I think most people know that. I'm Shakespeare of Thrones on Twitter. I tweet about Shakespeare a whole lot. I participate in Shakespeare Sunday, where I match Game of Thrones gifts to Shakespeare quotes. And I've just recently, like in the past 6 months, started producing my own content in terms of essays and videos on A Song of Ice and Fire content. And this essay is my second. It's called In Triple Aspect, which is of Macbeth and A Song of Ice and Fire. So it focuses on the different witch figures that we see in Macbeth and in A Song of Ice and Fire. And broadly speaking, I'm sure we'll get into specifics later, but I really narrowed down my focus to outline the three different types of witches that I saw, which were sub-archetypes: the Maiden witch, the Mother witch, and the Crone witch. So I saw the witch archetype as sort of subverting or corrupting the Maiden, Mother, or Crone archetype, which A Song of Ice and Fire readers are very familiar with, since those are three aspects of the Faith of the Seven. And so I could look at that. We could look at that in terms of A Song of Ice and Fire witches, and also Macbeth witches. But in A Song of Ice and Fire, we have, I don't know, what is it, like over 1 million words or something? Somebody must have done a word count.
It's a lot of words. And somebody on Reddit the other day actually posted an excellent Excel document where they counted literally every character and then updated where they are, their families, and like house words and all this other crazy stuff. It was a really cool project they did.
Oh, neat. Yeah, so A Song of Ice and Fire has like over 1 million words. Macbeth has like 16,000. It's the shortest high tragedy in the Shakespeare canon. So, well, there's really 4 high tragedies. I believe it's the shortest tragedy overall as well. So it's very compressed. We only have 2 types of witches. We see many more types of witches and many more types of those types of witches in A Song of Ice and Fire. Just more words, more witches. More witches, more words.
Much like us, George really likes the concept of witches. What we basically looked at is not only did he take the weird sisters from Macbeth, but he took all of their historical examples and essentially translated them in their own little ways, which is, I don't think, like Witchcraft and like these kind of characters, I don't think that's what many people focus on in A Song of Ice and Fire.
No, and I feel like we have to, I was somewhat tempted when I started this analysis to talk a little bit about paganism and the pagan concept of the witch, but oh man, that was opening a whole can of worms that I felt like would have required
Mallory.
Yes, and so I'm so happy that she's joining us later because she's going to have so much to talk about. I'm definitely not qualified to talk about the true witch in terms of paganism and everything. I'm more focused on the literature aspect, especially in relation to the witches in Macbeth that we see that have perpetuated a lot of this sort of Halloween pop culture perception of the witch, the witch, the witch. Ooh. We can also talk about that as a Freudian slip. This old haggard woman, like sort of leaning over a bubbling cauldron and talking about spells and things like that. And that's like from one scene in Macbeth. And I feel like that is not even a true picture of what the witches look like from Macbeth. There's a lot more to them than that scene.
There is quite a lot more. Although, funny enough, I did have you read that to start the video.
You did!
Well, that was sort of the point. It was to start with what people already know about them and then go like, what don't you know about them? How can you make them more complicated and human?
Right. It is a good attention getter, though. It is. It is.
So yeah, we went at it from very different sides. But let's start with this opening question. Mallory can answer when she gets here. If you had to choose one of the witches, which one would you be?
Ooh. Let's see. Well, should you go first or should I go first?
Oh no, you go first.
Okay. Well, I have to qualify this with there's the witch that I fancy myself as, and then there's the witch that I really think that I am.
Oh boy, this is personal.
So I don't know. I really like the witch Hecate from Greek mythology. She's the goddess of the moon, the earth, the underworld, ghosts, necromancy, witchcraft, a whole lot of things. She's kind of a chameleon witch goddess because she can she can access the heavens, she can access the earth, she can access the underworld, and she also has a lot of empathy. She assisted Demeter in her search for her daughter Persephone when Persephone was abducted by Hades. So I really admire that. Mallory told me that she was also going to choose Hecate for her soul witch. And the thing is that Mallory knows a lot more about this stuff than I do. And she gave me some notes. This is her life. And she gave me some notes. So I have to read these notes because they're amazing. Mallory says, Hecate is variously associated with crossroads, entranceways, light, magic, witchcraft, knowledge of herbs and poisonous plants, ghosts, necromancy, and sorcery. And then she quotes, in the post-Christian writings of the Chaldean oracles, 2nd to 3rd centuries CE, she was regarded with some rulership over earth, sky, and sea, as well as a more universal role as Savior, don't know how to pronounce that, mother of angels and the cosmic world's soul. So Mallory actually quoted like probably a valid source, and I just kind of looked on Wikipedia to to validate some things that I thought I knew about Hecate. I can't wait for Mallory. That's actually a combination of Mallory and Hecate. Mallory.
There you go. That could be your spooky nickname.
So she can talk to us more about witches. But so I think that I'm kind of like Hecate because I do fancy myself as a bit of a chameleon, and I can adapt many situations and also an empathizer. I think that I'm also a lot like Mary Sanderson from Hocus Pocus.
Okay.
For those of you who don't remember, you should all remember. I mean, come on, who hasn't watched
the
Hocus
quintessential witch movie of
I know, right?
The last 100 years.
Yeah, so I feel like she's so overlooked as, you know, the three sisters. Like there's Bette Midler,
Three sisters.
Winnie, the leader of them, and then there's the sexy one, Sarah Jessica Parker. And you know, Winnie though, she's so cool because she's always positive and she's like down for stuff. She always has a smile on her face when she's not like making some other funny face, which I do a lot too. And when she uses the vacuum instead of a broom at the end of the movie, I thought that was incredible. Like I'm like, I improvise really well when I have limited resources too. So Winnie is, or not Winnie, Mary Sanderson is my soul witch.
All right. Well, that is a very, very detailed answer. I think I like about Hecate is that when you just kind of look at what she represents, it's like they just sort of took everything spooky and were just like, you are just a goddess. It's like, even for Halloween existed, it's like, you are just that person. You have all of it.
Yeah, and I love that she's a goddess and goddess of witchcraft.
And she shows up in Macbeth.
She does. And it's really debatable whether that was written by Shakespeare. Most scholars don't think that that particular scene was, but we can get into that later.
It was a really funny scene when I came across it, and I was like, wait, a Greek goddess showed up to like slap around the Weird Sisters? This is awesome. Yeah. This is like something I would have read. Well, if I was way better at stuff. But it's like, yeah, I would definitely have Greek gods come out of nowhere, which works.
Yeah, it's very different in tone from the rest of the play, and a lot of times stage productions won't include it, but I like it. I like it.
It does kind of undercut the Norn Fate thing if they have a boss. Those characters don't have bosses. Sometimes the Fates do. But if I had to pick a witch for myself, I think it would be Urd from the Norns. She basically just sort of hangs out at the well of Urd underneath Yggdrasil, and she looks back at the past and helps create new things, and it's just like what's her name? Scold. She's like a Valkyrie. She goes out and she likes messing stuff up. She likes going into battle. She likes causing mischief. The middle one, I can't believe I pronounced it right during the stream. During the video. I'm not gonna now. Verdandi, I think is her name. She is more or less like the decider of the current fates of people, like the in-between times. But just the way that I am and the way I like reading, it seems like Urd is a natural kind of like introvert, looking back on the world kind of person.
I like that. Very also, sort of Aemon type of person.
Coincidentally, my favorite character in A Song of Ice and Fire.
Gosh, I didn't know that.
Yep. I know, right? I didn't make a video or stream about it. Let's see here. Any good ones in the chat? Eliana said Akko. I don't know who that is.
I don't know who Akko is either.
I feel like these are anime. These have to be anime characters.
Steven Stark said Glenda, like from The Wizard of Oz.
Glenda the Good Witch?
That's great.
There you go.
Yeah,
a very different take on witches.
Yeah, because we have like all these bad witches in literature and pop culture, but not a lot of the good witches. But yeah, Glenda was kind of built into The Wizard of Oz to be a juxtaposition of the Wicked Witch of the West. And so it was really interesting to see Wicked the musical and see the villain origin story of the Wicked Witch. It wasn't even really a villain origin story because she wasn't a villain at all. But, yeah, we'll talk about that and more. These witches, I feel like they do deserve villain origin stories because there's a reason why they became witches in the first place, especially in the case of what I like to call the mother witch subarchetype. But we'll definitely get into that as we go along in the stream.
All right. Let's just go into the first topic here. Let's talk about what we mean by witches, because we're kind of throwing this word around, and there's a whole lot of understandings from very different cultures. So I think you kind of alluded to it in the beginning where you said the modern view of witches is toil and trouble and cauldrons. Even I can't believe I just forgot the name of that movie. The one you just talked about, Mary Sanders.
No,
Mary
Hocus
Hocus Pocus. I like those are what people go to when they think of witches traditionally. Even when they're like in that story, if I remember right, they like try and contact the devil, and they have like an evil book that talks.
Yeah, they do.
And it's sort of like, I think it's more like a caricature of where they actually came from in their roots, especially because like this is a major part of, well, Macbeth is different in that the witches actually go out of their way to cause mischief. But in most cases, I think a lot of the negative connotations with them is that, like, if you deal with them, bad things will happen to you, but it's because of something you did, not because of something they did to you normally. Like with the Norns and the Fates. If you go talk to the Norns or the Fates and they tell you something you don't like, you try and change it, like, your life is over. You do not mess with those characters.
Yeah. There are a lot of different takes on this in myth and literature. There isn't just one story, and I'm thankful for that we just don't have the one, if you mess with witches, then this is going to happen to you. I mean, I feel like there's always some repercussion, but what that is exactly always turns out a little bit differently in every story. Like your life isn't necessarily over, but you're always changed as a result of it.
A lot of times it's the poison chalice idea, where,
and we see that in Hocus Pocus too, but we shouldn't get too deep into the pop culture analysis, because I'm pretty sure that they don't get very deep into the whole psychoanalysis thing either, which is what I find really interesting about witches and archetypes.
Which is basically what your essay was about. It was the
Basically.
psychoanalysis of these kind of characters. Now, when I say like your life was over if you messed with them, again, this is sort of feeding into what I was just talking about, but like it's not over because of like malice. It like your life would be destroyed because people don't understand their powers in a real way. Because a lot of their powers deal with prophecy. And George ports this over almost directly from these old stories where if you know your fate and you try to avoid it, it's absolutely going to happen, but everyone pretends they don't. It's just like a rule of dealing with these kind of characters.
Yeah, and what's interesting is in Macbeth, like Macbeth goes through all these efforts to make his fate happen. He kills kings, he kills his best friend, he kills so many people, starts a civil war in his country to make these prophecies come true, and it ends up ruining his life. And I think there's a lot of Macbeth influence in A Song of Ice and Fire, particularly in the Stannis and Cersei storylines. But Cersei in particular, she has sort of a reverse Macbethian storyline where she's trying to make these horrible she has some pretty horrible prophecies told.
Somebody just joined us.
What's that?
Somebody with horns just joined us.
Hello.
Mallory, oh my god, you both have horns.
Probably got lipstick all over my teeth. Are we live?
We're live.
Yes, we're live.
Yes, awesome. Cool. Late.
I don't have lipstick on my teeth. I'm not wearing lipstick. Sorry.
Hi, Lauren. Hi, Matt. How are you guys?
How's it going?
Oh, you know, just getting off work, driving home and putting on a costume, but not going anywhere.
Wait,
you
didn't
amazing.
You didn't go to work in that costume?
No, I can't go to work in a costume.
Why not? That's like, this is your normal dress.
I went to work in a costume. I went to work in a cowgirl costume. And I felt good about it because it was for the kids that I work with.
Well, I can't dress up at all. Like, I mean, like I barely get away with like my colored hair and stuff whenever I do that. But you know, where are we at here? What are we talking about?
We were in topic 1, but we can go back to your intro thing because you wrote quite a lot about it.
I did.
Yeah, let me just finish up a thought that I was almost finished saying.
Sorry.
I was almost finished thinking it and then saying it. So let me rewind and go back to thinking it again so I can say it. Okay, so yes, I was talking about how Macbeth has these really great prophecies spoken to him, and it's, you know, it just ruins his life trying to chase them and do these horrible things. And then Cersei has these really horrible prophecies spoken to her by Maggie the Frog, and she like goes through fire and hell trying to make them not happen, and they're happening anyway. And it's just interesting how both characters had very different prophecies, but that act of having their prophecies told and holding on to that time when they encountered these witches, it's just changed their lives.
It's true.
Really great costumes, by the way, guys.
What do you think mine is, Mallory?
LML. You don't have a puka shell necklace.
I'm also not stoned, so can I be LML?
No. You must take the communion of the sacred starry order church.
I went the other way. I'm worshiping Bacchus tonight with my
well, that also counts as communion, so
with my beer and my douchebag sunglasses and my hair going all the way up. This is what I'm all about right now.
How much gel is in your hair right now?
Enough that I walked out of my bedroom and back in, and after like a minute, I could still smell it. It was quite a lot.
Oh man, that is a lot. Woof.
Ugh. So, do you want to do your intro question? Which you would be?
Which?
Which?
I did
which?
one of those stupid Facebook quizzes because I hate myself or something once, and it was like, your witch name is Moon Singer, and I was like, no, it's not. Get out of here. I have like 500 witch names. Okay, anyway. Yeah, since I'm late, I'm Sanrixian, out of in costume, so I'm very confusing. I'm either a screen, someone else, or a witch. So yes, that's me. You can find me on Twitter. I'm the most active there. Sanrixian.com is my web store, and if you just want to look at my art, it's Mallory Dorn, MALLORYDORN.com. And yeah, hit me up, talk to me. And my witch, my spirit witch, I'm probably gonna say this wrong. Abonde. It's ABONDE. Lauren, did you go over Hecate?
She did.
Yeah, I did, and I think I pronounced it badly.
I could be saying it wrong. I say Hecate, but that's probably because I've said it my entire life.
I said Hecate because that's how I've heard it, but I've also heard Hecate, so probably anything goes.
Yeah, whatever you feel like.
Right.
But I pulled a couple quotes here about Abonde, who's also known as Perchta. She's like an ancient archetypal form-changing goddess. She predates a lot of the triple goddess, and you gotta say Hecate for me right again.
Hecate.
She predates Hecate and is probably one of the inspirations for her, or like through time it all just kind of became one. But she is the winter goddess, so she's a winter witch. One of the most important figures in all of Wicca and neo-paganism, in Europe mainly. Some believe she arose from the earliest divine female guardian figures that came down from ancient hunting cultures. So her male equivalent would be the horn god, kind of. But I think the horn god comes later if we talk timelines. But the coolest thing about Abonde is that she's like a shapeshifter, and the three aspects of the three witches, Mother, Maiden, Crone, she can take all those forms. So she can appear as a beautiful young maid in a flowing white dress, or a wizened and shriveled old crone with wolf fangs.
Oh, nice.
Glowing red eyes. So of course, like,
so you're Ghost.
Yeah, I'm Ghost.
Or Val.
She brings fertility, prosperity, spring when she's in her young form. So think of like maidenhood, flowering, that kind of thing. But if you piss her off, the crone's going to show up and whoop your butt. So that's which witch I would be.
We also have people talking about sandwiches in the chat, which is making me hungry.
Sandwiches are pretty good.
They're pretty amazing.
Sandwich.
This is now a sandwich live stream.
So I'm just gonna say this because it's true. Everyone knows it. A hot dog is a sandwich.
No, it's not.
It's a sandwich. It's okay.
It's a hot dog. A hot dog is a hot dog.
What are we gonna do?
It's got a lot of nasty things in it. It's very good, but
it is a hot dog. It is meat between bread.
Is a taco a sandwich?
Yes.
Is a calzone a sandwich?
No, because it's enclosed all the way.
Okay, that's what it is.
All right.
Gyro is not a sandwich.
See, I like this because Macbeth is a play of absolutes. And
thanks, Lauren, keeping us on topic.
So about Macbeth.
So if there were sandwiches in Macbeth.
Were there? I don't think there were.
What would a hot dog be? I don't know. Probably the hot dog would be
the penis.
It would be.
There were a lot of penises.
Oh, there's mention of penises in witch lore. Apparently, in the Middle Ages, I was listening to podcasts when I was getting ready to write my essay, and I heard this one factoid about witches in the 16th century or something. How they were said to keep penises in boxes as pets and feed them like oats and corn.
What?
What?
You're saying words, and they're in the correct order, but the meaning's not coming to me.
Seriously.
No, look it up. Look it up. I Googled
No, I believe you.
Make sure that there were other sources that said this. And there are. Like, witches were said to keep penises in boxes and feed them corn and oats. Like, this is the castration anxiety that makes the witch a bad woman.
Cut your balls off.
Right.
Watch the fuck out.
Right. So I feel like Witch is such an interesting character because she is such a power archetype and she's associated with evil, but she's also like kind of a feminist avatar, you know? Like she's just so powerful and awesome, but also she's really feared. Like, have you ever done that thing where a guy is harassing you as you're walking down the street and you just sort of mutter gibberish at them and then they get scared and they go away? Yeah, it works every time.
That's literally my default response.
Right,
every time I get hit on, I just go, "What could you ha?"
I think you just went full Ace Ventura.
And their eyes widen and they just like run away.
Actually, normally I just
their dicks cut off. I swear.
Yeah, I speak Chinese or French to them, and then they're just ultra confused. So, and in like a witchy manner, like,
right,
Wundan. Don't say that.
I don't know what that means.
You don't need to know.
Okay.
It's okay.
Excellent question from Eliana in the chat. Is Ace Ventura a witch?
Yes, he is definitely a witch. Look at all of his familiars. Except his anti-familiar would be a bat. Because he doesn't like that white bat.
Him and his monkey are like this.
Oh man, it's been a minute.
He was birthed from a rhino.
He's a skin changer. I knew it.
Oh, you guys.
But this actually, I'm going to pull the stream back to what we were talking about real fast. So when you jumped on, we were talking about modern understanding of witches and where were we in the thing? We were comparing them to what they actually used to be and what the myths actually tell us about them. What do you got, Mallory?
Modern understanding of witches. Well, I think that obviously like a witch has kind of like a negative term to it. Has Lauren and you already gone? I don't want to like repeat things you've said.
No, we've barely started talking about witches.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say a witch is like a negative connotation, and it's just kind of like generally, I'm speaking in generalities here. Like it's like anyone who is not understood. So you can think of it as like in modern culture, it's becoming more popular, and like obviously it's written about numerous times. Lauren will go on about how much Shakespeare writes about it, but from what I understand, the origins of it are predating like Celtic society, like 200 BCE or something like that. Did I just say BCE?
I think so.
Oh my god, you knew what I meant, right? Yeah, but a thing that I pulled, a quote that I pulled just off the Wikipedia, like when I was working today because I was stupidly busy, that kind of like collected the idea of what I was trying to say, was specifically speaking about the triple goddess. And the triple goddess is a horned goddess. Like she's the female equivalent of the Horn Lord. She's the moon to the sun. Like if you think of the moon as a woman, you think of the sun as a man. She's the duality. She's the woman to the man. And
LML is just gonna come crashing into our live stream like right now.
He doesn't have the link this time. You can't do it.
He tried once.
He did try once.
But anyway, like basically our understanding of witches is related mainly to Robert Graves, and like at least our understanding of the triple goddess, I would say, and his poetry. And he would say that the Fates truly inspired real poetry. And basically all of neo-paganism and Wicca and our understanding of witches comes from super early writing and literature. And the church kind of erased some of it from history. So
they do that a lot. That's kind of their thing.
So like poems, like myths, things like that is what we have to go off of. Obviously, like they didn't keep records of murdering witches in like the year 2 or whatever, you know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just really okay. So this is how little I know about my friends. You're Wiccan, right?
No.
Or no? Okay.
I'm nothing.
See, these are my friends, and I don't know what they believe in. Okay, so but you have like a very deep interest in paganism, witchcraft,
Yes,
history of witches, stuff like that. Okay, great. And yeah, I actually know like a lot less than I would like to about the history of witches and witch mythology and all of that. So I'm super happy that you're here to compliment us, because I mostly do come from a literature aspect. And yeah, Matt, you're more from like the myth side of things too.
Yeah.
But it does seem like I don't know what came first. If it was I'm sure it was the pagan witch, and then that was associated with things that were just very sort of what would you say, primal and bad,
savage,
and woman and bad, and so just that was so the witch just became this sort of very bad archetype that was incorporated into myth and had all these different I don't know, variations.
Well, to add to that, like, I'm interested in it because of the artistic symbolism and like all of the runes, glyphs, things like that. Like, if you've ever looked at like any kind of spell book or rune book, like there's just an insane amount of interesting visual things for me and interesting visual symbolism. And you can find like in Norse runes, they're mainly like linear and graphical, but in some of the crazy like voodoo spell circles, you get circles and things like that. So it's all tied together. And in really what I was trying to say the first time and failed miserably, thank you for speaking, because
you didn't
triggered my brain. But basically a witch is a woman who does something, or a man, because we can include warlocks and they can be witches. Anybody can be a witch.
The witch trials, they did not discriminate. They killed both.
Did not. And it's just like basically at the heart of it, it's someone who does something that is perceived as different or unusual. So if we were in the 15th century, I would definitely be a witch. I mean, like I like black dogs. I love black.
You like black dogs?
I do.
Yeah, the song by Led Zeppelin, Black Dog. She's into it.
Well, before my handle was Sanrixian, it was 3 black dogs, which nobody remembers. So
Cerberus.
Which, well, I didn't know it was a Clegane thing until ASOIAF, and then I was like, oh, yeah. But yeah, women being persecuted as witches, it was almost like just an excuse. Oh, Griff.
Kitty. Kitty.
Kitty. Hi, baby boy. Come here. You want to say hi to the camera?
Yes, he does.
You want to say hi?
Yes,
what? Your cat came when you called? What is this?
Oh yeah, he was raised by dogs.
Wait, pull him back up. I made you the presenter. Yeah.
Oh yeah. John Carnington, aka Griff. What's up?
Oh, look at Mallory's familiar.
Oh no, Rhaegar's my familiar.
Okay, I'm sorry.
One of my animals to be my familiar. He's the most plush.
All right, so where were we before I rudely cut you off?
No, I don't remember.
That's
what
fair.
are your thoughts, Matt?
It sort of seems like the basic idea behind like the word barbarian, where it used to mean a specific thing, and then it just sort of became everybody that's not us.
Right.
And
I'm doing the whole hashtag take witch back, which is why my office is decorated with like the witch is in and all this Halloween stuff. It's Halloween all the time. I think it should be like I think what I was getting at earlier was it's like a special person, like especially with healing magic, like that's considered like witchcraft, or like anything that's outside of what whoever's in power determines is the correct thing to do. So for a long time, obviously that was Christians and Christianity, and still is, but you know.
That is how it goes, unfortunately. Thanks, Christians. You guys did great there. So this why don't we transition a little bit more into like what the more ancient or primal understandings of them were, which I think is what me and Lauren were talking about a little, or maybe I was talking a bit more about in mine, but how it's sort of a lot of what we understand as witches can very, very easily be seen as old pagan goddesses. A lot of their traits, like we were talking about with Hecate, the fact that she's the goddess of witchcraft, I'm sure she wasn't called that at the time. It's just like over time, people like backwards recognize, oh yeah, she's everything I think of when I think of witches, that kind of thing. And we can see that with Shakespeare, where when he made his weird sisters, just how clearly he was referencing these old ancient traditions when he designed them.
Yeah, Hecate is associated with tons of things: crossroads, gateways, portals, signs and portals, light, magic, witchcraft, also herbs, plants, ghosts, necromancy, sorcery, black animals.
Black animals.
I like black animals, yeah. But she's probably the oldest goddess. And like Matt said, or excuse me, Joe.
You can call me Matt, it's fine.
Okay. But like you said, Lauren, do you want to speak on like the influence, how Shakespeare
I was just gonna jump in with that. I feel like something happened, and we've talked about that, between the myth where the witch was a goddess and the literature where she's just construed as this sort of agent of evil and darkness. But there's also a lot of color in there when we look at Shakespeare and A Song of Ice and Fire. And the work that I did in trying to figure out, gosh, I was making spreadsheets about like all the different qualities that all the witches had.
You did.
I
was
did.
Great.
This is no, it was more than what I showed you though. What I started with was crazy. I had like prophecy, no prophecy, old, not old. It was beautiful, sexy, seductive, and then I was like, well, what's the difference between that? And then it was nuts. But what I basically boiled it down to was that there are 3 types of witches, and each of these types of witches is a corruption or a subversion of one of those archetypes that we see in A Song of Ice and Fire, Maiden, Mother, or Crone. And the way that the witch subverts those archetypes is by taking the favorable qualities that we associate with those favorable feminine figures, and the witch kind of flips those in a dark way. For example, the maiden is virtuous and pure, but the maiden witch is a seductive temptress. We all have that sort of archetype in mind of the witch who is really sexy and seductive and uses her erotic magic to influence a story. Who are we thinking of?
Melisandre. Or you could just call her the Halloween costume witch.
Right, that lady. I really love Melisandre, and she has a lot of complexity beyond just being the sexy witch, and I'm sure we'll get to that later, but she's for sure like the iconic representation of that. I would also call Lady Macbeth a maiden witch. It isn't instantly obvious because she's not really, I mean, there's no language in Macbeth that refers to her as being buxom and sexy and stuff, but she just has a sexually charged, language, and she's the one who seduces Macbeth into pursuing these prophecies. Macbeth is really unsure about what to do with this information about prophecy when he's delivered, when it's given to him by the witches, but then he comes home and his wife has received a letter about what the witches said, and she's like, oh honey, we got be like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. And as I said in my essay, most stage productions and film adaptations show her straddling him while she's delivering this line. Or, in the 2015 version of Macbeth, they're totally getting it on while she's delivering this line in this monologue. And that's part of her like seducing him into pursuing the prophecy. But gosh, she has a lot of complexity as well, and we'll get to that later. So I want to move on to the Mother Witch, who subverts the mother archetype, the mother aspect, by taking those nurturing, warm qualities of the mother and turns them into a cold, very venomous sort of creature. We see that in Lady Stoneheart for sure. It's just amazing to witness the transformation between Catelyn and Lady Stoneheart. Like, Catelyn started to become Lady Stoneheart. We see hints of it like really early on in A Song of Ice and Fire. But
yeah, there's even a line where she says like, my heart has become like stone very
Yes.
early on. George very clearly had that idea. And then after, it's particularly after she learns of Bran and Rickon's deaths that you can really see how traumatic that is for her and how she's like steeling herself for the worst.
Right.
Almost becoming like Ned post-war in a way.
Yeah, and it's because she's become jaded about this system that was working for her, and now it's not. She's not getting her entitlements, and it's not just about not getting her entitlements. It's about like the rules of that system being totally just crushed, and her children are murdered, and I feel like we witness the rise of Lady Stoneheart even before Catelyn dies, when she kills Walder Frey's disabled son, Jingle Bell.
Yeah.
And like that's her first act, and then she's murdered. She rises again as Lady Stoneheart. And I feel like to really be a mother witch, you have to be. It has to be through the eyes, partially, of somebody who's being nurtured by, or not nurtured, but who looks up to that person as a sort of a mother figure. And we, in the Brienne chapters, encounter Lady Stoneheart in a very like horrendous, shocking way. And Catelyn and Brienne had like sort of a mother-daughter relationship in a way, even though Brienne was protecting Catelyn, but in a lot of ways, Catelyn was protecting Brienne, like a mother and a daughter, which Brienne never had. And Brienne, even though she's so strong and she's such a warrior, she's my favorite character, she's still like seeking approval and like that nurturing figure. And just to see like Catelyn, like this husk of Catelyn as Lady Stoneheart, this mother witch character who's everything but a mother. Gosh, yeah, I have a lot to say about. I'm probably like getting too deep into it right now with my introductions of what my essay is about, but this is just a taste of maybe what's to come. I feel like characters who encounter these types of witches go through a sort of crisis, and that's in relation to the type of witch that they encounter.
Well, it's like a Lady Stoneheart and Catelyn's arc. It's like showing you everything she had and then showing you everything she lost. So I feel like that her loss and her trauma and her grief were so strong that you know, that's why she came back the way she did. But like that aspect of dark like vengeance is definitely in play in witchcraft and voodoo. Mostly I think of there's more bad spells in voodoo that I know of. Well, not no specifically that you know of, at least.
I'm not worried. It's fine.
I got you, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah. But I feel like that vengeance aspect definitely speaks to empowering the witches. Like, witches are feared also. Like,
oh, for sure.
Yeah, especially the Crone aspect and the mother aspect. I would say the Maiden aspect, like Mel, she just gets away with so much because she's just so beautiful. You know?
Right. But
quote unquote beautiful, wearing that ruby.
There's fear there too. There's definitely fear, especially from the Davos perspective.
Yes.
There's also a great quote from Cresson where he says like, a lot of the men consider her beautiful, but he doesn't consider her beautiful. He considers her dangerous and red. And that's
terrible
kind of terrible and red. I'm sorry.
And terrible, or was it terrible, red, and no? It's red, terrible, and red.
It's important in understanding their characters. It's not just that they're there are such thing as sexy witches, but they're sexy in a way that's like I don't even know, like like watching something burn down. It's like
it's appealing to your primal instincts.
And likewise, those maiden witches kind of prey on the people, the men, let's be honest, who
Could be
are
anybody.
could
Equal
be
opportunity maiden witches.
Matt.
could be anybody,
prey on
but like Stannis, who is almost like basically an asexual character, yet
True.
Melisandre is able to appeal to him and bring this passion out of him. And I don't know, like he's such a repressed character, and all this stuff is brought up to the surface. I feel like in part because of Melisandre's influence. I would say that people who interact with the Maiden Witch sort of experience a crisis of passion versus dispassion. And like the passion kind of comes up to the surface, and we see that in Stannis.
For sure. And let's move on to the Crone Witch, because this is the one directly from Shakespeare.
Oh, sure.
The Weird Sisters.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the Crone aspect. So the Crone Witch takes on, this is an interesting one. The Crone Witch takes on the favorable aspects, or the favorable qualities of the Crone aspect, which is the kind, wise old woman, the trustworthy wise woman. And sort of, I would say rather than corrupting the wisdom, I wouldn't use that word. It's more like just flipping it away. She sort of powers up the wisdom to prophecy, so that it is a super wisdom, but it's not really trustworthy. You don't want to trust a prophecy because it's usually cloaked in riddles. You can't understand it. You think it means one thing, it means something else. You can't even figure out what it means. And if you try, you're just gonna die, or something horrible is gonna happen to you. Anyway,
it bites dicks off, like tradition, like witches, apparently.
Like Maester, like Marwyn says.
In that really, really ridiculous paragraph by George, it's like the point of it is great, but man, what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's fine for Marwyn to say it, but I wouldn't say
Marwyn's
it myself.
quite a dude. One thing I wanted to say about these three archetypes is that depending on the tradition of witches you're talking about, and if you look at the pagan goddesses, they kind of switch roles a lot of times, especially in their depiction. Like for the Norns from Norse mythology, like you said, the maiden, she usually represents kind of like new life, birth, that kind of thing. That's sort of what they're promising. But when you look at Norse mythology, because they're also in like the triple goddess way, they're the past, the present, and the future, the phases of somebody's life. But the Norn of the past is the oldest. The Norn of the future is the youngest, and they switch in weird ways.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool because it's just like this one wheel of time: the past, the present, and the future, and it's all one. I also want to talk about. I mentioned in my essay that things in 3, it's really prevalent in myth and in religion. We have the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, past, present, future, id, ego, super ego, beginning, middle, end. It's just the human conception of the world. So I feel like it's really resonant to have these 3 archetypes of the witch in terms of Maiden, Mother, Crone, because they correspond to so many ideas about the human concept of the world.
Also, another 3 I added. The Maiden is the waxing moon. The Mother is the full moon, and the Crone is the waning moon.
I love that.
And that ties back to Hecate?
Yes.
Right? Yes. And Adone, the one that the Wolfang god witch that I really like, they were seen as all 3 of those aspects in one body, shifting constantly back and forth. So I think, like you were talking about, like Lady Stoneheart being a mother, she's kind of like a crone when she's dead. Just physically. But
right.
She's definitely got the negative aspects of the crone, like wisdom, and I think Griff really is my familiar because he's been on my lap the whole time.
He's enjoying this.
He's loving the witch chat.
He is. He's like, yes, talk about me and my powers. Pay attention to how beautiful I am.
Yeah.
Amanda says Hecate is the waning moon, which is I don't know much about her, so this is the best part about this stream. I get to learn a lot. Mallory obviously knows a ton about witches. Lauren knows a ton about Shakespeare. So I'm just kind of that was a really cool part of this whole thing we were doing, is that I came into it as the novice and got to learn from much smarter people about this.
You're smarter than me, Matt.
I don't know. You really undersell yourself.
Yeah, you really do.
But
yeah. Any more thoughts on Hecate as the waning moon?
I'd have to like. Oh, she's disputing my order. Well, yeah.
Is there an order though?
That's
like if they're all
said.
kind of one?
But that's sort of the point. There's not really an order. There's only.
Well, the moon makes a cycle, and so the cyclical cycle of the moon can be viewed as also like rebirth, so transformation. So you may be a waning moon and then die like Lady Stoneheart did, and then become born again as a waxing moon, because that's the one that grows, and then become a full moon again, and then go back to waning. So I think of it in a way like I don't know if anybody like, I don't actually like buy into any of the planetary alignment stuff or astrology, but it's interesting to me. And like the moon in certain stages has like different properties. Like, let me pull up my moon app right now. And
you don't like your sign. That's what it is.
I'm a Virgo, and I do not feel like I'm a Virgo.
I know a lot of Virgos who hate astrology. I'm a Sagittarius, and that's like
Sagittarius, high five.
Yes.
I know what it is.
I remember looking up my sign when I was a kid, thinking, I hope it's Sagittarius, and then it was. Yes.
So right now our moon is in Leo. It is 45.84% lit. And
what happens when it gets 100% lit? Does like a party erupt? Like, what's going on?
Yes, a witch party erupts. Basically, we all go outside and howl. I don't know if you haven't heard that. We've done it outside your house before.
Oh no.
He will not leave me alone. Okay, look. See, now you're on camera. Look, there you go, buddy. Okay, but yeah, the moon and the planetary alignment and astrology and everything, that definitely comes into witchcraft. Reading runes, reading signs, reading and interpreting things. And like I said, I don't know if I buy into it. Sometimes things are like a little too spooky and too real, and I'm like, whoa. Like, I found out I have a Capricorn rising.
Griff, come on, son.
Griff is the best.
Wow,
Okay.
slapping him with the tail. This is max disrespect.
Rhaegar was literally laying on him earlier, and I walked into the room and went, "What are you two doing?" It looked like some kind of getting caught in the Titanic in the car stuff going on. Anyway, what was I talking about?
I don't even remember.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Planets.
Yeah, planets, and there's a lot to do with
reading runes and reading the planets. And yeah, like I said, I have a Capricorn rising, which according to astrology means that I'm super interested in fantasy stuff.
I think most people are super interested in fantasy stuff. They just don't admit it.
You think that?
I do think that. Before we moved on. Oh.
I'm not super into the fantasy stuff, to tell you the truth. A Song of Ice and Fire is one of the only fantasy novels or fantasy novels that I really groove with.
It's true.
I'm more into like the amazing characters, and I feel like a lot of times that's what fantasy doesn't have enough of.
Yeah, George changed the game for sure. Like,
he totally did.
I'm just always interested in all of the fantastical elements in all stories. So like when I was that kid, like growing up, who would go to the library and literally read the entire fantasy section, read through it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Also, special shout out to Eliana, who is keeping me on track right now.
Good.
Good.
Eliana keeping people on track is amazing.
Yeah, I thought that we were going to blow through all our points in like a half hour.
No, it's such a big topic. Yeah, Lauren, before we went on the stream, was like, how long is this gonna be? Like, I don't know. It's like there's not a lot there. It's like, it's okay, don't worry, it'll come.
I've never done this before. Help.
You're
find
doing
things to talk
amazing,
about,
sweetie.
Before we go to the next topic, which is like talk about specific characters in A Song of Ice and Fire, there's one point from my video that I think is what really drew me to this topic and really made me want to make something about it. And it's the idea that the three witches, or the three aspects of them, dependent, even almost no matter what the specific cultural understanding of them is they're all supposed to be understood as one, because what they really understand is like destiny and like a world beyond and like fundamental parts of nature, because that's what the Norns and the Fates are. Like even Zeus has to bow to the Fates. Odin goes to the Norns for help, and then actually he winds up with a poison chalice scenario. Ragnarok happens because he listens to prophecy basically and tries to change it. And I think that's part of the reason why witches are generally seen as these kind of characters who are like evil or dark or misunderstood. It's like, well, destiny's scary, and so is fate. And seeing like when we talk, bite your prick off. When you talk about Mother, Maiden, Crone, you're really talking about your life from beginning to end, their death and their birth. Right. So it's a scary concept, but it's one that a lot of people aren't comfortable with. So when you talk about them,
getting into that psychoanalytical realms, psychological theory deals so much with archetypes. And so when you're a writer and you're writing about this stuff, you have to think about it like really carefully. You can't just insert a witch over here and a spell and a curse over there and just be like, people are going to love it. It's great. I don't know. You just have to like put some fucking thought into it, because like this is the stuff that will hook you into a story if it's done well. You don't even know that you're being hooked into a story, but you are. It's kind of like I heard that fast food chains employ like neuroscientists to put smells into their stores that will make you keep coming back.
I would like to say that is 100% true, because I worked at Starbucks.
And
this kind of lingers in your hair, in my pillows. They do it.
Yeah, and I feel like that is psychoanalysis in literature. Like that's what GRM is, or I say GRM. I could do a poll on how you say it. Germ. I don't like Germ. Ugh, I hate it. Like that's what Martin is doing with the psychoanalysis, and that's what Shakespeare is doing with it too. They want you to keep coming back. They want the likes and the retweets and the upvotes and what have you.
Smash that like button.
You to buy wins a winner.
Oh God!
Kind of what we were talking about a little bit. There was a really good comment from my video from username. I'm used to saying user from Reddit, but hi, my name is Rev, and he said, over time I've come to realize that George is one of the most well-read fantasy sci-fi authors I've ever known of, at least in so much as it comes out in his work. I don't really read any Shakespeare, but I read up a lot of genetics and horror and history to inspire his work. Sometimes analysis of work comes out that makes me feel utterly ignorant. And he's talking about like just these kind of ideas are not really things people think about, but George is in a huge way and shows Shakespeare in Macbeth and how he uses them. And it's a completely different like prism to view these characters from that most people don't really get to. Like they stop at maybe like the prophecy or the weirdness, but they're not really understanding where it's coming from. And it's very, very interesting way to look at it, I think.
Yeah, and there's like, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I see a lot of fantasy writers using like witches or oracles or prophets as like the gods speaking through people, which we see in ASOIAF. And if that's not done well, it's really cheesy. And it's really bad. Like, I've read a ton of bad fantasy novels. I'm not going to name one of them I'm thinking of right now, but there was just basically a self-insert witch character, and I was just like, no. There needs to be a reason for the things that are happening thematically and story-wise and theme-wise to make sense. And, like, just by doing analysis with Lucy and with all of you guys on Twitter and everywhere, like, me and Lauren were talking about what's the new Mission Impossible movie? What's the new Mission Impossible movie that you...
Fallout?
Yeah. Remember your tweet about how it was like ASOIAF?
Did I tweet about Fallout? I must have.
Yeah, it was great.
I liked it.
It was great.
What did I say?
You were like, I think you compared somebody to Jon Snow or Azor Ahai or something, and...
Oh, shit!
It's just like, the more you look for it, the more you realize how much intent and thought.
Oh yeah, like they were doing the whole faceless man thing.
Yes, that's it.
I couldn't like stop thinking about that every time they did that. They did the face thing.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Oh, and then there was something else. It was like, is it worth it to save one person when 1,000 might be saved. Or when a whole world might be saved. I don't know. I only saw the movie once. I know. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's really important for basically authors to know their background, I would say, or at least do some kind of research into it. And every time before we do one of these streams, whatever topic we're looking into, I look it up again just to refresh my memory, because I have a really bad habit of saying the wrong words or getting dates wrong. Like, I'm a nightmare with dates, but I
don't know them at all.
Yeah, I try. I gave up on that after art history. I was like, I've memorized enough.
After art history. Okay, so when you were talking about dates, I thought that you meant like dating. And then when you said art history, I was still like, okay.
All those art history dates, you know?
Yeah. Okay, I get it now.
Good question in the chat from Amanda. She says, any thoughts on the Lady of Spears, the goddess whose altar the Unsullied burn their manhoods on?
Weena burner!
Wow. I don't know about this, honestly. This is probably like one of those lines that I just don't remember.
It's they don't really talk about her. She doesn't really have a name. It only comes up because Daenerys, I think, really pushes them about it. But they are the guys with spears who lost their manhoods, obviously. So they somehow made a goddess out of it. But the
she's the bride of battle and also the mother of host. Yeah.
It's an interesting character.
I think it's like only mentioned one time, which is why we don't have a lot of info on it. But that's burning genitals. Like there are two really, I guess, two elements in modern paganism or in modern Wicca that are used to work magic: blood and jizz.
Wow.
Yeah, and
like when you say genitals, you mean penises, right?
Yeah,
you mean penis.
I mean
anxiety. Say it again. The thing.
Penises. What?
No, I said castration anxiety.
Castration anxiety.
Penises?
Yes. So basically, it's like God, I lost it.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It was good. Basically, blood and jizz are the two main needed elements. Blood, obviously, more important. Blood magic's in ASOIAF. Maybe we'll find semen magic sometime.
God, I hope not.
Stannis. I'd love to see some Stannis semen magic just to piss.
I thought we did.
Kind of. Yeah. Kind of. See, I mean, what am I saying? Sex and blood, witchy magic shit, y'all.
Just witch shit.
But basically, yeah. So burning the genitals of someone, which they do to chain them and enslave them, it's definitely castration anxiety, like Lauren's saying, and it's also like a legitimate.
It's Freudian, like it's actually Freudian theory that boys go through a period in their early psychology where they fall in love with their mothers and they hate their fathers, and they have this not love hate, but like they fear that their penises are going to be cut off, and it's like it's a whole genital phase that we go through. Yeah, I know that the what? It's kind of like how we look at Freud nowadays. But
yeah.
I don't
remember that phase.
What's that called when a mother falls in, or a son falls in love with the mother? It's something with an E complex.
Oedipus.
Yeah, Oedipus.
It's I think it's an O,
but yeah.
Oh, well, see, I'm so good at spelling and words, guys.
Well,
that's
it's Greek. I mean, nobody can spell Greek. It's goddamn crazy. There's also another example of, dick burning in A Song of Ice and Fire. It happened to Varys, and then said something back from the flames. And then there's times where Tyrion's dick is considered lucky or magic
because he's a dwarf.
Because he's a dwarf. There's all sorts of weird dick magic going on.
That's a real thing. Like, dwarf penises were considered magic. Like, I mean, like, think about just all of the items that have been harvested for their quote unquote magical properties. Like, white rhinos were basically almost hunted to death for their horns. Or black rhinos, I don't remember which. I think it's black rhinos, and my zookeeper friend is going to murder me if I don't get that right. Yeah, she had a rhino that had the same skin condition that Michael Jackson had, Vitalio. So she had to stay in the shade all the time. Really cool rhino. Anyway, not rhinos. We're talking about witches.
Talking about witches.
We're talking about
Let's talk about some specific ones. Just because she's literally here with us, let's talk about Diana of the Tower. Now, this is one of your favorite characters, Mallory, so why don't you go ahead?
I love her so much. She did nothing wrong.
Ooh, hot take.
Those babies died because Maegor was fucked up.
Bad sperm.
I have a lot of theories about why basically I'm gonna mess it up. Visenya, right?
Yeah.
His mom. Yeah. Okay. Visenya's line died out. And I think she was more of the old Targaryen magic. This is complete tinfoil hour with Sanri right now. But I think she was more of the old fire and blood aspect of the Targaryens and less of Aegon's, let's be more like the Seven Kingdoms Targaryens. Where Rhaenys was just kind of like, la 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 la, let's go ride Meraxes. Visenya was like, no, we must kill everyone and make sure they bow. But Diana marrying Maegor, I think that she was definitely a witch, and I definitely think she had some kind of foresight, prophetic ability, maybe. It probably wasn't true, but I do not think that she poisoned the babies. I think that has something to do with Maegor being incompetent.
But why did she say that she did?
Well, she was being tortured.
Yeah, she was being
And the
tortured.
torture.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you know it better than I do.
No.
Yeah.
But
She's an interesting character, especially because at the same time, while Diana is getting more the maiden witch aspect, she's very attractive from what we've seen from the art. That's sort of her appeal to Maegor, is that she's like this hot witchy seductress. But at the same time, you have Visenya, who's really being shown as a crone witch or a mother witch. She even gets, as she gets older, people really ramp up. We talked about this in our Sons of the Dragon stream, Eliana. What's up, Eliana? Sons of the Dragon.
Stearns of the Durgan.
The Stearns of the Durgan. We talked about how she got older. The talk about her being a witch really ramped up as she was aging. And
right.
and it was like almost a weird backhanded compliment, because her power over the Seven Kingdoms was considered basically otherworldly.
Yeah,
that's
the
what
same
it
thing with Nymeria. Like Bran remembers her as a witch queen from the songs, and I mean, how are those songs being sung or told that portray her as a witch? It's because she had so much power, and when a woman has power, she must be a witch.
She must be a witch. If there's a woman in power, or if things happen that they can't explain, obviously she's a witch. Why my computer breaks all day. It's like, and to add to what you were saying about Visenya, leveling up, just think about your own experience in your own life. The older you get, the more knowledgeable you get. So if she started off early doing some kind of dark magic stuff, and then she mysteriously gets pregnant with Maegor, I'm saying that I know Bernie and a lot of other people are either working on or have worked on a lot of theories into the mutated Targaryen babies.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely think that it has something to do with the corruption of the dragon blood. They did something bad, so they're being punished, I guess, is the easiest way for me to say it.
I've heard a demonic pact idea about those, where that's how they made the dragons, is they made some kind of pact with a fire demon or something weird like that, which is more a satanic idea, but still kind of works.
I think it's Griffin. Stop. I think it was almost like, well, my crack theory tinfoil baby that I really want to do someday is a actual comic on a drawn comic, because I can't express myself with words, so I'd like to express myself visually so you guys can actually understand what I'm saying. But I feel like there's definitely a bond between the dragons and the Targaryens, and it's not a satanic one, it's more of a blood one. So I definitely think there was a mass blood sacrifice, which is definitely witchy, in order for them to appease the dragons, and then maybe an egg was exchanged. And I also think that it's carried down through the female line, the ability to bond through the dragons.
Hell yeah. Of course it is.
So we were talking about Diana.
Yep.
Yeah. I think next. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, she was the master of whispers for a while, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what expanded her people viewing her as a witch, because she was basically pre-Bloodraven.
It's true. And Varys and Bloodraven both get a similar kind of role thrust on them. Bloodraven was called a wizard.
He's a witch. He's a witch.
I guess he's considered a witch. What he does is definitely considered magical.
It's pretty witchy.
Yeah, he's tricky, and tricky is witchy, just a different way. Like trick or treat. Happy Halloween!
Hey, it's Halloween, guys.
Yeah, can you? I don't know. I really struggle with thinking of men in the witch archetype, though.
Yeah, I think it's you can think of them as in the sense of being outsiders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know George plays with that, like, and Varys being a eunuch and everything.
Yeah, Varys being a eunuch makes him an outsider, which I'm trying to think of other examples from the books of, well, the Unsullied with the Lady of the Spears. They worship this mother witch goddess, and they sacrifice, like we just talked about. Like, I don't know. It's just never been a gender thing for me. So
yeah,
I mean with the castration anxiety. But I'm so past that now in my thinking, I guess. I'm sorry. It's like basically, if you think about shamans or druids or other forms of magical people, a lot of times they were male dominated, whereas witch would be, as we think of, more of a female aspect. And obviously we have the triple goddess, the main female goddess of the witches, the equivalent of the sun, the anti-horned god, you know.
Sure.
Did that help or hurt?
No, it helps, and it triggers another thought. Like, I feel like we could spend forever talking about who's a witch and who's not a witch. So as we're going down our list, I want to bring up a really great question that Stephen Stark asks. How does Quaithe fit into this? She probably has the gift of prophecy, but doesn't seem to fit into the crone witch archetype. She isn't a seductress or a venomous, destructive type either, yet she clearly has some power, which suggests she must be a witch-type character. But Quaithe doesn't exactly tell the future. She tells Dany what she should do and advises her. Is she perhaps closer to something like the Greek Fates? Ooh, I like that. A force of nature as opposed to the subverted triple goddess.
Yeah, I would agree with Stephen's take that she's more like the Fates or the Norns, where what she's doing, she is like a George style witch in that she is trying to change fate, but it's not even clear what she's doing it for. Like, as far as we know, Quaithe could basically just be in Dany's head. Like, basically nobody else interacts with her.
Yeah,
that would be
really great.
Cool.
That would be fucking awesome.
But the way she comes to her, the way she appears in the stars, the way she appears on the I mean, she has a glass candle, obviously this is how she's doing it, but the way she does it just really feels mythological.
Yeah, and like, how we know that she's a Shara Dane, actually.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Chloe's not here.
No, she's such a, I see her as an oracle, which like a Greek oracle. Which, if I remember correctly, was kind of like
their takes on the Fates. They're basically Atropos.
Well, I was speaking specifically of young women who were made to
yes.
But yeah, I think of her more as an oracle where her guidance is what it is. And it's she's just laying it out without trying to, well, she is trying to direct Dany, but she's also like just presenting it in a way where Mel is forcing interpretations. Quaithe may have the true gift. Does that kind of
it makes sense? It's kind of like in Lord of the Rings, she's kind of like wow, I can't believe I'm blanking on this name. The Lady of the Woods. What's her name? Hang on a second.
I'm trying.
Galadriel. Where Galadriel does have the gift of prophecy with her mirror. and she does see what's happening, but rather than changing anything, she just kind of leans into it. She plays her role and moves along with it, which is really the only correct way to deal with these kind of prophecies, whereas to recognize your place in them and then let them happen. If you try and change it, that's how you get like Sauron style, like destruction.
Would you like...
The thing about Quaithe for me is that she doesn't have an agenda. I feel like if you're a witch, it's like you have an agenda of some sort, and I don't know what Quaithe's agenda is. To me, I agree with Stephen Stark. She is more like the Greek Fates, where they don't have a dog in the fight. They don't want a dog in the fight. To me, Quaithe is less like a witch archetype. She's more like the stranger of the Faith of the Seven. And she's even got the mask, you know? She's a masked figure. We don't know what she is, what she represents, who she fights for. She represents straight fate to me.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at with the Oracle point.
Yes.
Like, no specific agenda.
A really more ancient version of these characters.
Have you, Galadriel's quote about a dark queen, Matt?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. I pulled it if you want me to.
That's her really, in the terms that we're talking about, that's her really veering away from the Weird Sisters and going back towards the Norns. She could have everything. She could force her prophecy and use it to create a world where she's queen, but that would make her a monster, basically.
Yeah.
Nailed it. I did it, guys.
You win the internet.
I win the internet for today. Galadriel is a really interesting character.
She is. She's one of my favorites. And I just think that it's interesting that she's like, I could be Sauron next.
Yeah.
Instead of a dark lord, you could have a dark queen. You know, like, and
a dark queen.
A dark queen, and I shall be dark and beautiful, or whatever.
Like Melisandre.
Yeah. No, Tiana's dark and beautiful. Melisandre is red and beautiful and terrible.
And terrible and red.
And red.
Oh, Eliana disagrees, where she thinks Quaithe operates as a vehicle for character development in the same as the Weird Sisters.
That would be...
I agree with that, too.
I agree with that,
I agree with that, too. We all love you, Eliana.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually... That is a really good point, because the Weird Sisters, they're not really trying to make anything happen with Macbeth. They're just kind of being dicks. They're just like messing with fate for the fun of it, kind of. Like they're not really trying to. They're not helping themselves out. That's kind of what Hecate like scolds them for, where it's like, what are you guys even doing?
Yeah. Interesting. A little factoid here. It's not even a factoid because we don't even know who Shakespeare fucking was, but
it was
William. Bill.
Billy Shakes.
Billy Wagglestick. So we're pretty sure that
Dicks all everywhere.
We're pretty sure that he didn't write that scene with Hecate where she comes in and scolds the witches, because it doesn't appear in early texts, like earlier published versions of the play.
Mm-hmm.
But what scholars think is that an author of a play called The Witches, the playwright named Thomas Middleton, that he wrote that scene. And it's interesting that he wrote a play about witches and decided to insert this scene into Macbeth, which is now sort of in the canon Shakespeare literature. Because he wanted to like give more complexity to the witches. Like, wait a minute, you know, you're coming to, because it was kind of a big thing to, even though the witches in ASOIAF are more humanized than the witches in Macbeth, the witches in Macbeth are a lot more grounded and humanized than they are in Greek mythology.
Oh yeah, the Greek mythology ones, like, they basically don't even have personalities. Like they have like very general ones. They're like forces of nature. They're like gravity or like time.
And so then you have this other playwright who just decides, you know what, Shakespeare didn't do this right. He didn't have any, like, these fucking witches are breaking the rules. They're like telling a mortal what's gonna happen. No, we need to have Hecate come down and tell them they suck. Yes, they don't do this. I just love that like critique of another author.
Yeah.
Within the same text. Love it. It's awesome. It would be like if Tolkien came in, or if if Martin came into Tolkien's work and was like, no, Aragorn does not rule for 300 years peacefully.
That's basically what he does.
That's what he does. That's what he does.
I think this is probably a good time to move on to maybe the main witch of A Song of Ice and Fire, Melisandre.
Yeah.
And Lauren, you pointed this out in a really great way in your essay, but she is Mother, Maiden, and Crone. She is all the aspects at once.
Yeah.
And I mean, she is also the most direct representation of the weird sister. She's all of them at once. And but what she is them with intention. And she has a goal. She's trying to change fate, which
I
is...
still don't know what that goal is. I think we're just finding out.
It's like, not all life ends. I think that's basically it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like she definitely knows she thinks that, God, Mel's so hard for me because I really enjoy her.
I'm like, are you look at the way I'm dressed. What do you
expected it. Anyway, Mel is a very difficult character for me because the first time I read through ASOIAF, I was like, this bitch crazy. And then I read it again and I'm like, she's really cool. And then I read it a third time, I'm like, oh, she doesn't get it. So I feel like she's a extremely complicated character because she's obviously an extremely complicated character. And I think she has some kind of vision, but she just cannot interpret it correctly. She forces it to fit what she wants, which that's not what being a witch is. Like, if you want the prophecy to fit, it doesn't always fit. Like, you can't force things to fit. You have to accept it. And that's like goes back to the really old question, like, if you could know how you would die, would you want to know? And I would always say, fucking no, I don't want to know. Make it a shock, please.
She knows how the world will end.
Yeah, it's really interesting about Melisandre. I feel like, gosh, I don't know. Like, if I were writing Song of Ice and Fire, which, no, I'm not going to say anything that I would do. But what I know that Martin says that Brands are the hardest chapters for him to write, but I mean, he's just started writing Melisandre POVs, and when I say just, I mean like 7 years ago.
Well, the reason they're so hard is because Bran's so young.
But
it's not the complexity.
I know they are, but I just like think about Melisandre, and I don't even know if this bitch is mortal or if she's immortal, and like that's the really hard part for me. Like I can classify her. Oh, you know what? She's all three. She exhibits all three characteristics from Maiden, Mother, Crone, but I don't know. Is she like an agent of evil and darkness, like the three witches from Macbeth, or is she this Melanie Lot 7 with a human past and some trauma that we're going to see more of? And is she going to, I don't know, be haunted like a human is haunted by a guilty conscience? I don't know what's going on. Like I feel like every time Melisandre is just on the edge of kind of losing it a little bit for me as a witch character. Like she just, a lot of things that happen in the Melisandre storyline are over the top for me, but not quite. I still love it. Like I'm on the border of hating it, but I still love it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Because she's internally, she's so conflicted and so confused. She like, I just keep thinking of the quote where it's like, I ask for clarity and I only see snow. That
capital S. See the capital S, Melisandre.
Yes, it's like, Mel, girl,
wake up! Come on, babe. Like,
drink some shade of the evening. Consume some of the devil's lettuce. Let the magic flow. I feel like she's just, I don't know. I'm leaning towards her having a backstory as some kind of human, because that would explain why she's so goddamn wrong all the time. Because humans make errors. But
I definitely agree with you.
Yeah.
There's also a very interesting part of her character, because she really does embody all three aspects of these witch goddess characters. Historically, what their role is to start and decide where lives go and then end them. And Melisandre is really struggling with the last part, where she's becoming inhuman. She doesn't sleep anymore. She doesn't eat. She's becoming a Fate. She's becoming a Norn.
Yeah.
But to do so means you okay, so if you're a Tropos or you're a Scold, you kill everybody that's ever lived. That's your understanding of your role. And Melisandre's really struggling against that.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, and we see in Macbeth, Macbeth loses a lot of that physiological functioning, the ability to sleep. Sleep is a huge theme in the play, as well as, it's, she talks about there's some other physiological function that's really big aside from sleep.
Eating.
That's the most. Yes,
Eating.
He doesn't.
She doesn't eat.
He doesn't eat much anymore, and we see that with Stannis as well in A Song of Ice and Fire. And Melisandre doesn't eat at all.
She eats to make people comfortable.
What's really interesting to me about the supernatural immortal realm, we ask, are these prophecies legit? Can we even? Are they even true? In any way? Even the interpretation notwithstanding. And I feel like there are two answers. Well, yes, because we have to have some prophecy to make this particular witch archetype real. But then it also depends on the mortals that they interact with and how they see that supernatural immortal realm, because it's really our perception of it that makes it what it is. It's kind of like the whole tree falls in a forest, do you hear it falling thing.
I think it's
believe it. Does it exist?
It's the question basically Hecate asks in Macbeth, where I mean, obviously not like you're saying, it's not the original thing, but it's asking. That scene's really asking if the witches even talk to him. Does any of this happen? But were they always supposed to talk to him, kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
The Fates. Going back to what I was saying earlier about the two aspects that were needed to perform magic. Another thing that's needed is intention, pure intention to work magic, I guess is the easiest way to say it. And if your intention isn't pure, or if you don't purely believe what you're doing, then that magic may not work. So we could see that in Mel, maybe. She doesn't, well, no. She's a true believer, I think. But maybe her intentions are not the right ones.
Yeah, I want to know what her intentions are.
Yeah, I don't. It's very hard to discuss her without knowing.
Yeah.
We know so little about her outside of what she does in the story. Do we want to talk about Dany? Because I pulled a quote from Amanda here.
Go ahead.
Amanda says Dany is a crone by the tradition of the Dosh Kalin, and being a widow of a Khal, Misha, mother of dragons, and a 14-year-old girl. So she fits all of the roles. And she is definitely, I would think, we could say a witch. Just her simple act of hatching the dragons, which hasn't happened forever, and Gurm specifically said was a one-off miracle.
Yeah, that's I could see her as a witch too. I got a comment on my video, somebody else said that they would argue, it's a Narwin who said that she would argue that Dany would also qualify as a witch archetype. I think that we have less, it feels
She's
not less natural.
Yeah,
we don't see her through the perspective of anyone who views her as such.
We see her only from inside her head. True. That's a good point.
And from the perspective of people who kind of think positively on her.
Well, we also have the people like Robert who want to freaking kill her when she's a 14-year-old girl, and then they call her the Dragon Queen, and they think she's going to rain fire and blood. So there's your negative aspects. But I also agree that she's not the main witch focus of ASOIAF.
Yeah, like Nymeria, I think that she's one of those who in future lore will be or would be, since
witch queen
real world. Is it?
There's a very good point here from Eliana where she says that Dany survived being burned.
Yeah.
A classic witch subversion.
Wow.
Makes perfect sense.
Eliana, we love that you're here with us tonight.
Oh,
And,
she's so smart.
She's so smart.
Eliana, if I give you the link, you can jump in if you
You
like.
can jump in.
Yeah.
I think that's an excellent point. I never would have even thought of that. But yeah, that's if you're looking at all these characters from the perspective of classical and modern witches, yeah, that fits
really
so good.
She's a silver-haired queen. She's got a mysterious look. She's from an ancient bloodline, you know. It's just it works. Like, you can fit most characters and some of their actions into some kind of magic or ritual or spell, I think, if we look hard enough. So.
What's funny, though, is that she survived that pyre, but she burned Mary Mazur in it.
Yeah,
like she burned a witch. And what's interesting about Mary Mazur is
another great character.
In my essay, I sort of analyzed her as a crone witch with some other witch tendencies because, you know, she's a midwife and a god's wife, and she assists that she's the midwife to Dany's birth of Rhaego that, you know, ultimately was a deformed baby who didn't live. But I feel like Miri Mazdur being burned in Drogo's pyre is kind of her also acting as a midwife to the birth of Dany's dragons.
Yes. She had to be there. Like, I think it's Radio Westeros, when they talk about this scene, they talk about how there's a theory that and I don't remember where the theory came from, but there's a theory that Viserys called Drogo, and then Rhaego's spirits actually went into Dany's dragons, so that's why they're Rhaegal, Viserion, and Drogon.
Oh, Eliana, love this one. We call it the Evangelion theory.
Do you even know Evangelion, Matt?
I do. I've watched the whole thing. I love Evangelion. Lauren, do you know what Evangelion is?
No.
Don't. You'll be so confused.
Are you okay with us spoiling it very, very quickly?
Don't ruin it for us.
I probably won't know otherwise.
Okay, so a main point of Evangelion is that characters die and their souls are harvested and turned into these giant robot things. So the idea behind the eggs is that perhaps they absorb the souls of these characters.
Or some aspect of them, like their life force. I don't like to think of it necessarily as their soul. I like to think of it as more of like their life force or their spirit, or not their spirit, but like their energy or something. And then Miri being there would make 4. Which is an important number.
Why is 4 an important number?
It's the number of death in China, really? I believe.
No.
It has a stigmata against it, or stigma, excuse me. Not stigmata. Those are the wounds of Christ. A stigma.
In support of what we're talking about, Amanda pulled some amazing quotes about Dany being a witch. Let's see here. I have heard it said that the Silver Queen feeds them with the flesh of infants. Whoa, where have you heard that before? While she bathes herself in the blood of virgin girls and takes a different lover every night. I mean, that's classic witch propaganda.
That's the Lady of Harrenhal. Gosh, I just drew her. I forgot her name.
Danelle lost him.
Thank you.
Mad Danelle.
Mad Danelle. Crazy Danelle.
Mad. Witchy Danelle.
She's, bathed in the blood, and she's told as like a fairy tale now to kids. Like, don't act wrong or Danelle will come eat you and turn you into a bloodbath.
Yeah, I posted that today on a kind of a spooky Song of Ice and Fire quote thing. Danelle, this is a very different conversation, but Danelle, what she's basically being called is an old god worshiper, which works with what we're talking about because witches are basically pagan worshippers.
Yeah.
In the Christian sense. So from the Faith of the Seven, if you're putting those together, it makes very good sense that George is doing that.
Yeah, and eating children is such a it's like such a huge fairy tale witch thing too. Like Baba Yaga from Russian folklore, and what is it? The witch from Hansel and Gretel too.
Oh, I don't even remember her name.
She was fattening. I know. I don't think she had a name. She was just fattening up the children, and then they put her in the stove. Yeah.
Cooking children.
I think in some.
Don't eat babies, people. Just don't do it.
Don't eat babies. That's what we're saying.
And don't keep penises as pets. They're not very good.
Yeah,
That
don't
was from
burn
way
him.
earlier in the chat. Sorry.
If you don't know the context, it's not gonna make a lot of sense. Another good one about Dany. Her call killed her brother to make her queen. Then she killed her call to make herself Khaleesi. She practices blood sacrifice, lies as easy as she breathes. Again, classic witchy stereotyping.
It's like what I was saying earlier. It's like the person who doesn't fit, Christianity ostracizes. So the Faith of the Seven is ostracizing all of these women. Dany, God, we haven't talked about Maggie yet.
I know we haven't. We have to talk about Maggie.
Before we do, we have
next.
to talk about the main witch that just showed up in chat. Jeffrey Hartline.
Oh my God.
The witch of the Demon Leaf himself. I don't know what to say about Jeff popping in on this stream. This is so far off his normal path.
Yeah, I think. All right.
He's just here to hear me speak my hearsay about witchery and then yell at me later or make fun of me later, probably.
Babies are like veal. Oh my
Babies
God.
are like veal. No, the whole eating babies thing is like a I think I referred to this on our Between Two Werewoods panel or something, but it's cannibalism, and especially cannibalism of family members or babies is like a early Greek myth. Saturn, or what is he called?
Yeah, it is.
Jupiter.
It's Saturn. That's the Roman name for it. I forget what his Greek name is.
Jupiter.
Saturn.
Jupiter is that's
no,
like
it's Kronos, isn't it?
those
Uranus?
are the Roman names. The Greek ones have different names.
Yeah, the Titans.
Like-
I think you're talking about Kronos,
Yes,
Kronos.
Kronos. Time. Sorry. Yes.
the Lord of Time before the Fates.
Thank you. Yes, I was talking about Kronos, and he eats his babies, and it's very horrifying.
Yeah, there's a really great painting of it.
Goya. Yeah.
Goya. Oh, yeah.
Somebody find that painting. Put it in chat.
Do it. Do it now. Should we talk about man, guys, I really want to talk about Cersei. So
Let's go for Cersei,
we do
because
it?
I don't think most people would consider her a witch. And
Right.
this is a really great part of your essay that was very convincing. So, Lauren.
Right. So like Lady Stoneheart, I consider Cersei a mother witch in A Song of Ice and Fire, because she takes those typical mother characteristics, that nurturing, motherly, matronly quality, that warmth, and she subverts it to, a real coldness and venomous quality, not towards her own children maybe, but definitely towards Sansa and Marjorie. I just think that these behaviors were shaped too by her own hopes being dashed as a child when she received that prophecy from Maggie that told her that she was not going to have what she wanted when she grew up. She wasn't going to be the maiden she wanted to be. She wasn't going to be the mother she was going to be. Her children were going to die. And even though she does everything to try and reverse this fate, I think she knows somewhere in the back of her mind that it's going to come true. And it's just really gutting to her, because also as a child, she had this twin who was a boy who, got all the stuff that she didn't get. And when she hit puberty, just everything turned around. They could switch roles before puberty and it was fine. But then when she started growing breasts, just everybody started treating her differently. And it's just like really sad, I think, for Cersei, that she had this sort of vision of what life could have been. And then everything changed in so many ways. And I think that's her backstory, evil witch sort of characterization that validates, not really validates, because I would never say anything validates Cersei's behaviors, but it makes her understandable.
How old was she when Maggie told her kids were gonna die? Like 8?
I don't even know.
Like 8 to 11.
It's hard to say,
11.
because she and Jaime started going at it very, very young. It's like, it's noted in the books that when they started actually having sex, it was like way before they should be able to.
Well, they had like they had some I don't know, explorations, I think, when they were younger. It's never really clarified what they did, but I thought they didn't have sex until they were 15.
I think they got caught by Joanna doing some things when they were super, super young.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like her, Cersei's being told that at such a young age, it's like being told how you're going to die. Like I said earlier, like having that weight on you and that disturbing thought and something that you have to live with. Like you said, Lauren, it doesn't justify her behavior, but you can see where it comes from. Her vindictive side, her, she's looking out for herself is what I see. Herself and her family and actually just her kids is really all she cares about. I don't feel like she's beyond caring about Jaime at this point. But
she also has like this younger, more beautiful queen person who's supposedly going to take everything from her. And I feel like she sort of has that in the back of her mind too, every time she meets a candidate for that position. And so every time she meets a younger, more beautiful woman, even if she's just like a little girl, like Sansa, who's like 11 or 12 when she first meets her. It's
Very
like, I feel like that's part of her behavior, like why she behaves the way that she does.
Yes, definitely. She sees other women as a threat, like just the end, like other women to her, and in the societal structure of King's Landing and everything going on there. Like Sansa is a threat, but not a threat for a while. And
Marjorie too. Marjorie's like improving things, and that's like a threat to her.
Yes.
Yeah, and Cersei is very much like a Maleficent sort of character from fairy tale, or evil queen from Snow White.
She's like a self-hating
in that
witch.
way. Yeah, who are also both mother witches.
Yeah, the mother aspect of like caring and, like you're saying, it gets inverted basically. The caring and the protection and everything.
Inverted, subverted, perverted, everything.
All the urdeds.
All the urds.
Just all of
We
them.
went there.
Oh!
All the urds.
10,000
Mind
points
blown.
to House Magician.
We can end this now. Okay.
One very interesting thing about Cersei, you guys, that we were just talking about is how she's like a self-hating witch. Canonically and mythologically, witches stick together. They work together, like the Weird Sisters, the Norns, the Fates. They're supposed to be. That's sort of like part of the thing that's scary about them. It's like they're all part of this secret society that helps each other. But Cersei kind of breaks that, and that she goes against basically her own archetype.
Yeah.
She dislikes that part of herself. She dislikes other characters that are like that, and that's pretty abnormal as a character trait, which is pretty good by George, I'd say.
Yeah, and we have a question from LML in the chat asking if we see any Circe, like from Roman Greek mythology, influence on Cersei. Circe, who, let's see, she's prominent in the Ulysses tale, and I believe she's known for turning men into pigs, animals, stuff like that. Does that sound right, myth people? Because
that does sound.
I
think that's part of.
We prefer myth heads.
Is that Odyssey or Iliad? I forget which one. It's one of the two.
Yeah, it's been a while for me.
She lures Odysseus, turns all his men into pigs, and then they basically stay there having a bone session for quite a long time.
Yep. Right. I definitely think that name was deliberately chosen because Cersei is kind of a witch and a sorceress in her own way. I think she exhibits aspects of the maiden witch like Circe does, in that she seduces men and kind of lures them into her evil ways. But I wouldn't be qualified to say how much more of that lore her arc embraces. Any thoughts, guys? Any thoughts in the chat? Yes, Ulysses, the Odysseus. The Roman version is Odysseus.
Oh.
Yes.
Good job. You nailed it.
Yes.
Oh, where were we at?
Yeah, so any thoughts on Maggie the Frog while we're talking about Cersei?
I love Maggie so much.
Why do you love Maggie?
because she's a witch. I mean, like, do I have to say anything else?
No, you don't. You really don't.
I think she's really cool. I like that she like. I feel like she can almost like sense some evil in Cersei when she's younger, or some ill intent. Not necessarily evil yet, but I feel like the way she words everything to her is very intentional. And wording in prophecy is so tricky. Like, I mean, just think of like Azor Ahai, born among salt and smoke. That can mean so many things. Like, so many things. And I think she presents it to Cersei in a way where it's deliberately confusing and deliberately like, or the little brother will kill you, the Valonqar whole thing. Like, in the way we know that it doesn't have a gender, so we've been speculating on it for 800 years.
Right.
As we wait for the Winds of Winter. Yeah, that I think she did that on purpose to kind of like sway Cersei. But and then when I say that, I think about it more and I'm like, maybe she just told her exactly what came into her head. So.
It could be any number of things. And I feel like Maggie is the most parallel witch we see to the Macbeth witches. Even though kind of the way things happen aren't exactly aligned. Like, the witches just straight up tell Macbeth, he doesn't even ask what his prophecy is. Like, they tell him, they're like, hey, you!
You over there, you and Banquo, you guys have things going on.
Got something to discuss. And Maggie is just like, not everybody wants to know that. You don't want to know your future.
Yeah, you don't.
Basically saying that. She's like, not everyone who comes here has futures. She says something like that.
Well, specifically because Cersei kills her companion later.
Yeah.
Yeah. We assume. I mean, it's pretty...
she shoves her down a well.
Safely assume, I think.
Oh, just a witch thing, shoving people down wells.
Which is what Macbeth does to Banquo. Macbeth kills Banquo.
Look at you, the Shakespeare expert.
Is a little bit of a Banquo parallel. Yeah.
I just wanted to quickly... we got a couple of super chats. Well, kind of super chats because I don't have it. So PayPal things. One from Monica. Thank you very much. No message there. But there's one from Amanda. And she wanted us to take a look at something. So I'm going to share my screen real fast. And we can take a look at it. This is House Harclay.
Oh, wow.
And she's been... Amanda says she's been writing about the Triple Goddess for the past 3 weeks. And looking specifically at the waning full... Wait, no, I got those wrong. Waxing, waning, and full moons on this.
Wow.
And between it, I think... And it's a northern mountain clan, which means... And they're from the Wolfswood, which means old gods. Very interesting, Amanda. You are much... Cool. You are so clever.
Invite her to the stream.
Yeah.
Amanda, you want to come on? I can give you a link. You can jump on and talk to us about the Triple Goddess. That's really cool. This is the kind of things that I love learning about because this is really not a world or a subject that I really know anything about. I mean, I tried for this one. I did my own thing, but like, this is awesome.
You did great.
Good.
Oh, thank you.
So another thing I wanted to talk about with the Crone Witch is this whole psychological analysis that I'm super into because I feel like you can only write really well if you employ this psychoanalytical realm, but that's just the kind of stuff that I like. So with the Crone Witch characters, I read this when I was writing my essay. I looked up like some scholarly articles and stuff for ideas, and there were these Shakespeare scholars who looked at Macbeth and the prophecies that the witches spoke as the magical realm being parallel to psychological regression. So when we're young, we sort of just go with what we aren't psychologically developed. Like when we're babies and we're crying, that's our id. That's just like, food, feed me, cuddle me, I'm tired, whatever. And then our ego develops. And then our superego develops, which is like what we show to the rest of the world, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, this whole idea of seeking out prophecies and what your future is, it's sort of a psychological regression into the past because the id and like wish fulfillment operates on the idea of the pleasure principle. which is the id.
The instinct.
So right. So when we're talking about magic and characters who seek out magic and try to make their prophecies come true or not come true, we're really just looking at characters who are regressing intellectually and psychologically. And it's sort of like the take-home message for the reader, I believe. Like, I mean, well, while we're reading this, it's not like, oh, okay, so I know what to do when I encounter a witch in the woods. I'm not going to ask her shit, but it's the more the message is just like, hey, maybe think a little bit before you give into that whole id pleasure principle thing, because maybe it's not a good idea. Not that it's all supposed to be a cautionary tale or a lesson, but I feel like that's why it strikes home for it. Oh,
the greatest American novel that hasn't been published.
I heard it's gonna win 17 Peace Prizes or something.
Wow, that's incredible. That thing's gonna win all the prizes. I mean, George has a very eloquent way of saying the kind of the danger. It's the sword without the hilt. You're putting yourself at danger by even trifling with these kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that aspect that it'll come back and bite you in the ass, like
bite your prick off.
Yeah.
It will burn your dick off on an altar.
It'll bite it off, spit it onto an altar, and then it will burn. Hey, Stannis's plotline.
Yeah, so that's what I really wanted to say about the whole psychological aspect of it. But
that was an excellent part.
I think it's super cool. I love psychoanalysis of literature, so
it's really important.
I'll be doing more of that.
It's really valid, and it's especially when we're discussing characters. We need a place for that.
Yeah, because this is, as we say all the time, this is not just a tale set in a sort of medieval type of era, but it's a contemporary author writing about it. And, through like the eyes that we have now, I mean, what are you doing?
You with who cut your own throat on the stream. Oh, you missed that,
What
Mallory.
are you silly people doing? Oh my goodness.
There's 55
serious
people,
here.
55 people watching you talk about this.
No, you're doing great. Amanda wanted to point out that Blue Tiger was actually the first one who found House Barclay. Or is it Harclay or Barclay?
Barclay. Barclay is the betting site.
Oh my god.
So not House Barclay.
Not House Barclay, but
there could be like meaning in that.
Yeah. There's definitely meaning in it.
Definitely
meaning. There's meaning in everything, really.
So I wanted to, because we've been at this for quite a while, just move to some of the questions and then probably wrap it up after that. First one was from my YouTube video, Thunderclap. He said, I guess Shireen Baratheon and Teroa Toland fit the maiden aspect. I believe that's the girl from Dorne, isn't she? The Toland girl? The one that sees prophecy? Somebody brought this up as like a Rhaenys descendant, which I always thought was interesting.
That is interesting.
The Toland girl can see into the future, and that's like her kind of thing. And she's blonde, I think, which is odd for Dorne.
Yeah.
And then would Catelyn and Cersei fit with their mother's intuition towards their children's safety?
Can you repeat that last part again?
Yeah,
I was reading the chat.
Sorry.
Would Catelyn and Cersei fit with their mother's intuition towards their children's safety? I would say, yeah, definitely. I think that was part of the what Lauren was saying about about the mother witches. That I think those are key parts of it, is they're subverting their Painkiller Jane. The Toland girl has dragon dreams, which it's the theory that Rhaenys survived her fall and she was kept alive at the hellhole, kept alive in hell.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm not sure if it would fit a maiden part. I mean, she is young, but the seeing the future is usually the crone.
Well, the purity of the maiden.
It depends on which one. If we're talking about Norse or Greek, basically.
Yeah, I mean, like, man, The prophecy is the Crone, but in ASOIAF we have so many green seers that develop these abilities, not just dragon dreamers, but green seers that develop them young. So I would say in regards to what Lauren just talked about with like growth in the id, ego, superego, like you don't achieve your full witch powers hashtag until you've reached at least the 3rd stage in your life. And before that, it could be just kind of considered running rampant and the words from the mouths of babes, as they say, you know.
Right. And what's funny is that these characters are trying to drive themselves towards their future, but really they're going back into their past.
GMath has been asking about the Ghost of High Heart for a while. Do we want to talk about that for a minute?
Sure. Ghost of High Heart is a very interesting character in that her vision, she definitely has prophetic visions, which would put her more in the role of the crone kind of witch, but she's also, it's almost certain she was the woods witch that came with Jenny of Oldstones to court, which would, and that kind of nurturing and that kind of pushing forwards would make her more of a mother kind of role. And then there's the odd part where she actually asks for kind of payments for her visions, which is one part that I found really interesting about George's interpretations, where he was kind of asking, like, what would happen if these characters were in the real world? What would you do with these things? Would they be like the fortune tellers on the side of the road? Would they integrate themselves with kings? It's these kind of questions. And the Ghost of High Heart is an interesting cross-section of a lot of these characters, especially with she hears the whisperings in her dreams, which is a...
Yeah, the Ghost of High Heart, I feel like I really want to know more about her. She seems to me to be, I don't know, this is just the impression of her that I have of the little we see of her in ASOIAF and the snippets we know of her from the history, but she seems to me a kind woman and someone who really, like her grief about Hall, it almost seems like she had some part in that. Part of me wants to think that and maybe this happened and I'm just missing it, but were her prophecies that she talked about, what was it, Ares or
it was
Azor
Jaehaerys.
Ahai being born of Jaehaerys line or something?
Yeah, Jaehaerys and his wife. It would come specifically from Ares and Rhaella.
Ares and Rhaella, okay. Really from them? Because I thought it was just... Oh,
it was why they were forced to marry, even though they were already in love with other
characters. But it was them specifically?
It was them
it was those two.
Interesting. I don't know, just all her grief about Summerhall. I feel like maybe she had some part, maybe saying some prophecy that convinced Aegon V to try and hatch those dragons. And maybe she had some grief over that. This is just me like spinning some fan fiction, but
no, I think that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, for some reason that's always in my head canon.
Well, she has that whole quote to Arya where she's like, I see you, wolf child, blood child. I thought it was the Lord who smelled of death. You're cruel to come to my hill, cruel. I gorged on grief at Summerhall.
Yeah.
I need none of yours. Be gone from here, Darkheart, be gone.
She's a very interesting mixture of these kind of characters because it seems like she should have learned her lesson at Summerhall, where she's like, I gorged on the grief.
Yeah.
But then she's still doing weird sister things where she's being asked by the Brotherhood Without Banners for like intel. And then she just keeps going on, and like Macbeth, just giving characters more than they asked for. And you think she would have, I don't know. It's an interesting take on that kind of character where the lesson isn't learned. The Ghost of High Heart still is telling people their fortunes when she saw how poorly it probably went before.
Yeah, and maybe it's like just part of what she does. Like she can't control it.
If she like the whole oracle aspect that I was mentioning earlier, a lot of times those things are like uncontrollable. Like I've read fantasy and I can't think of anything specifically, but I know there's been prophets or oracles, when they speak, they don't even remember speaking, and they have to have witnesses to document like what's going on. So for her, I feel like it's so ingrained into who she is at this point in her life, and she's probably older than Melisandre. JK. I don't know that for sure.
Well, she's probably a child of the forest, so she could be thousands of years old.
Yeah, so she's been doing this for so long that maybe it all kind of blends together in a way. the way like when you wake up from a dream, it lingers. The prophecy could like she's gonna be talking and just it comes out. You know,
could be.
I don't know. It's not really a valid argument.
That feels like it's about right to me too, but I can only go off of feelings because we just don't know enough about her.
She's really a minor character, but she gets a lot of attention because of the just the perfect accuracy of her visions
and the magnitude of just what happens after she says these.
She knows everything.
One prophecy.
So another question from Mainstream Hypocrisy. Do you think Thoros is less of a witch than Melisandre? Not because of gender, but from what we know of their faith and abilities.
I would say Thoros is a better witch than Melisandre.
Ooh.
Wow.
He's actually rezzed people.
Like a priest in Warcraft. He's actually casting the spell.
Yeah, it's just, you know, res. Oh, you fell again, res. Yeah, like, I don't think we don't see any prophecies from him, do we? None that I can remember.
He doesn't really understand what he's doing, but he may be in more of the classical role in that he feels that he's sort of fulfilling a job and less trying to like he's more a surfer on the wave kind of thing than like somebody that's trying to break it, that kind of thing.
He's not trying to break the wheel.
Yeah. He's going along with it. He's like, I don't know what's going on, but it keeps happening, so I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because it seems to be working. Whereas Melisandre is like, I think a key part of her character is that she is deliberately trying to change her visions.
Yes, she's forcing them to fit what she wants them to, which is what I was talking about earlier with Jesus Griffin. He gets called Griffin when he's in trouble. But Thoros, I feel like there's some people who are just blessed with an ability of vision and foresight, or in his case, being able to give the Lord's kiss. That's wrong. I did it again.
Fire Lord's kiss.
He's the kiss of life, whatever you want to call it.
It's okay. There's no shame cube on Joe Magician's stream. You are free to say that.
Yeah. But thanks, Jeff. I know my cat's great. But yeah, I feel like he's one of those people who just inherently has an ability, kind of like we could say like the Ghost of High Heart. It's an inherent ability, which may or may not be because she's a child of the Force. It would be interesting if we find out that Melisandre was a human and all of the magic she does is kind of like stolen in a way.
What was that? What did you just do?
I had to knock my cat off my webcam. He's mad. He's been in here for a while. Somebody else talk. I'm going to let him out real quick.
Go, Lauren.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm not as much of a Thoros expert as I'd like to be. I didn't look at male witches. Yeah. I don't know. Probably is a better witch than Melisandre. Just
at least in like the Galadriel
going off
sense.
of feelings. Definitely in the Galadriel sense.
He's like, I don't know what's happening. I'm just going with the flow.
And I like that. I like that it's not really premeditated. I feel like what makes Melisandre's power fail a lot is that it is so premeditated. Like whatever human aspects she has, that's how we see it manifested partially, is in this effort to I don't know, just try and lead prophecy in the way that she wants it to go.
I performed a magic trick.
Oh, hang on. Mallory's getting presented because she has a pupper.
This is Black Darian.
Oh, okay.
He does not like being on camera. He knows what they are.
He doesn't know what cameras are.
Oh, he knows what phones are.
Oh, boy.
He hates getting his photograph taken. That's what it's like to raise a dog these days now.
You gotta get that dog back on camera.
There he is.
Oh, he just headbutted the door.
Come here, bear. Come here, bear. Come here. Paws up. Paws up. Come on. Come on. You can do it. Good boy. We're learning. We're learning. Good boy. And that's his all the time collar, not just his Halloween collar. Yes, you're a good boy.
Oh.
You got drool on your face. Okay.
That's a very good boy right there.
Yes, he's in training to be a service animal, so
Oh,
I love
that is
service
sweet.
animals.
he's a good boy.
Very good boy. Good as
Now my
Um,
lipstick is gone because he licked it.
Oh, my makeup is all over my face and my forehead and everywhere.
Me too.
I don't even
think
know
I'm
what
messing
is
up.
my
Actually, it looks more like blood now.
It
Looks
does?
like dry blood.
Okay. Not quite though.
Yeah.
I'd really like to see hipster versions of all of the Northern ladies in the North Remembers t-shirts. Like you could just
By the
wear
way-
that. I know. That's why I said it.
Oh, yep. Mallory
It's
Dorn
yours.
production right there.
Get yours on Sanrixian.com.
Yep. And Rebecca has one, and she posted a Wylam Manderley versus in the North Remembers. So I thought that would be really fun and cool if we all did it.
Got a question here from Amanda where she's wondering where the Night's Queen fits into this witchy archetype.
Oh, that's excellent.
Well, she's died, so
Yeah.
But the
I think-
Norns are without time. The Fates are without time. Death to them is nothing. Hmm.
Had
Oh,
which aspects thing is more applicable to, it's definitely applicable to myth sometimes, but it's more applicable to literature. And the Night Queen to me seems like more of a myth type character.
she definitely
And
seems
then
maiden like. The story is she seduced the Night's King.
You're right.
So she would definitely
right, she would-
qualify as a maiden, and then also we could say she was a mother and she gave birth to Lightbringer.
All three. She's
And
fate
she's
itself.
a crone. Yeah,
Mhm.
she's fate. I mean, she's death. She's the others. She's
Mhm.
coming. She is Queen Witch of the North.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sacrifices her babies. Yep, from Stephen Stark. She gets all the witchy prototypes, or not prototypes. What's the word? Stereotypes thrown on her.
Archetypes.
Yeah, archetypes.
All those types.
Yeah, she's if you believe that she was at once Nisa / the Amethyst Empathist.
Ooh,
Empress.
that wasn't the
Empress.
word.
Empress. If you believe she was Nisa / the Amethyst Empress, like I do, then she definitely fits all of those roles at different stages of her life and her story. Which, like Lauren was talking about, the psychoanalytical aspect of it, it kind of relates.
Cool.
Does that make
Definitely.
sense?
Ooh.
No, it does.
Got another good question from Andrea Johnson. Where does Arya fit? Is she a witch? I would say she's more of a
Arya,
scold character.
my baby warrior child. I don't know. That's like all I can
She's
think
like
of her.
like Scold, who brings death to everybody and feels comfortable among the Valkyries,
Well,
but decides when lives end.
Arya is just a child. Be a witch if you're a child.
she's what? You cut out there. For
A
Yeah,
me.
you-
child.
She's a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like with the children of the forest, you know, I can't qualify them as witches in my head because
They're
even
magical
though they're not
creatures.
children. Yeah.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's like it seems like to me, I need a woman to be of a certain age to qualify as the witch character,
Hmm.
and to me, Arya does
Amanda
not.
in the chat, Amanda also points out that she's a chaste woman. She's a stranger, neither male nor female. And honestly, like I think that
Mhm.
the male nor female thing in the stranger, that's exactly it. She doesn't fit into these roles. We could make her fit if we tried really hard. Like, I mean,
Oh,
she's
yeah.
obviously a death god, and faceless magic could be considered witchcraft. I mean, I'm sure.
Yeah, if we tried really hard,
Yeah.
we could make anybody fit any of these archetypes. I
Sure.
swear we could, but yeah. I like Arya as the stranger.
Yeah,
type
she's
more.
she's death to me. Like that's her role, and I like that it relates to Lady Stoneheart too, like death and vengeance.
Yeah, she's transitioned to being a Tropos, basically.
Mhm.
Atropos is generally seen almost exactly like Catelyn Stark, like Grim Reaper, basically. The Atropos, the Greek god of the future, basically. That's kind of what it is. That's one of the things that's hard to understand when you're talking about these different traditions, is that because Norse is cyclical, everything's flipped, but Greek is kind of, I think, more of a mainstream understanding where time has started and then we're just all going on the same path. It's not weaving back in on itself. So the Greek one is probably closer to how we would understand these kind of characters. Norse is a very, very different one.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Got a quote from Jeff that he wants us to react to. Beside Euron stood a shadow in woman's form, long and tall and terrible, her hands alive with pale white fire. What do you guys make of that?
Oh man,
Euron's a witch.
Euron is a male witch. I would say that's true.
I wanted to bring that up at the beginning, but yeah, he's definitely a male witch. I think that Bloodraven trained him and he failed. I don't know if you guys buy into that, but
It makes sense.
He's definitely doing the things that you're not supposed to do in witchcraft, for sure. As far as that quote, I can't remember what that's in reference.
Well, the terrible part, that one's that's like Melisandre.
Yeah, terrible. Alive with light. Pale white fire, yeah.
Beside him, but I don't think we've seen that character yet.
Light.
Yeah, I don't know who that character is. That's what I was trying to remember the context of that quote.
Could be the Night's Queen. That's maybe how she's seen.
That would make perfect sense.
I made a rhyme. I did it.
Good.
Yeah, I'm not as good at the I don't know, foretelling. Maybe I'm not
the theory crafting.
Definitely not a crone witch. No, not as good at that as I would like to be. And I would need to read more of the context around this quote, I think.
I think it is. I just grabbed it. I think it's a vision. Aaron's second vision. I could be wrong. Found a Reddit thread, you guys.
Oh boy.
It's probably written by Jeff.
I'll ban him.
It's from like 2016. So
I can still make this happen.
It comes from the new Aaron chapter during Aaron's Shade of the Evening inspired and Lovecraft inspired dreams visions. So that's what it comes from. Aaron's dream. Aaron Dampere.
So this would be Wins a Winner.
Yeah. So, whoa, I definitely think that's
Melisandre.
That's Melisandre.
I would
you think
love
she's gonna
that
switch sides, gonna lose stance and be like,
because of the terrible. It has to be.
Yeah, the terrible line and the.
But now she's Melisandre the White.
Oh shit! She's gonna Gandalf it.
Oh,
she levels up. Actually, do you guys ever see this? There's George commissioned a long time ago a figure piece of Melisandre where she was red, but at the same time they released a blue version. And there's never been an explanation for why there was a blue Melisandre bait, and it wasn't a mistake. It was a production decision.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's.
I wouldn't be surprised. You change color.
Plus, there's that new person they cast for season 8 who
Naomi Watt. AKA Lan the Clever. I love that idea.
Yes, it has to be. I want it to be so bad. Oh, I swear. I can't remember who first came up with that. I think it was
I think it was Jeff, wasn't it? No, the Lan the Clever idea. Yeah.
As a female.
I thought it was.
I think it was like Shauna Aziz or
yeah, it was history.
I think it was a
people, I think.
Yeah.
Good point here from Painkiller Jane, where she says Euron is a horrific Odin learning runes or witchcraft, which was the women's work. So it's kind of like Odin in the story of Ragnarok. He goes to learn his future and then reacts to it. It could be Euron is a take on that, where instead of asking for what they see, asking to learn what they do. That would be interesting.
Learn what they do in regards to
like their abilities to see the future, their ability, their control over destiny.
Do they have control over destiny?
Yes, the Norns are.
Oh, you're talking about the Norns. I'm sorry, I missed that.
the Norns are basically constants in the Norse universe. The reason Erd is the oldest is because she has seen all the cycles before.
Right.
And it's an interesting part of their culture that the future is Maiden, so it's hopeful, rather than Greek, which is death and sad.
I like that.
Yeah. I was just thinking about Euron hanging from a tree upside down.
I mean, maybe he has. Hanging from a tree. That's what Bran and Bloodraven are doing.
Yeah, for what is it? 9 long days and 9 long nights I hung from this tree, like part of the verse for actually when Odin goes underneath Yggdrasil. There we go.
It's hard to pronounce that one.
Yeah, it is a very hard one. I don't even try for Thor's hammer. I'm just like but yeah. I was just thinking about like as him as an Odin parallel is interesting. There's obvious symbolism for it. Yeah. It's the same eye too. I really want to see what's under that eye patch.
His smiling eye, isn't it? Or no, it's the other one. It's his dark eye or something. I forget what it's called.
Eye. Blood eye or something.
The Song of Ice and Fire. Whoa!
Oh my god!
We did that. We got there. Wait, is Lauren still there?
I'm still here. Yeah. Am I frozen?
Oh, you were frozen for quite a while.
Oh, okay. Gosh, I said all this great stuff and you guys just missed it.
Oh, were you talking?
Sorry.
It's a
we were talking over you. You went robot.
I'm kidding.
Okay. Eliana says there's a nipple under the eye patch. That's an interpretation I've never heard.
I love that.
I thought it was just a chunk of moon meteor, like a red chunk just stuck in there. He's like, this is how I get the fire of the gods.
I mean, I did propose that in my Whisper Jewel video.
I know.
That's what Simeon's Star Eyes was, seeing through sapphires.
Yes, that is such a cool character. I love his design. The seeing through the star eyes.
Were there any other questions you guys wanted to get to? Or topics you wanted to have?
None for me. I have to admit, I'm waning a little bit.
Okay.
Are you entering your Crone phase, Lauren?
Yes.
I am.
Don't say that.
Between
You're
my
too
own-
young.
Well, she's Stoneheart, so she's been the Crone the whole time.
Wait, and I've been...
No, I've been eating babies.
Oh, no. Why do you do these things?
No.
Which witch are you, Joe?
I haven't.
What am I?
Yeah, did you answer which witch you would be?
I said Erd.
Okay. But would you be the mother, the maiden, or the crone?
I guess in that sense, the Crone?
Yeah, you are wise. I think. Technically I have to be the maiden. So that would make you the mother. If I'm Tiana.
I'll be the evil lady. I don't mind.
I think
I
so.
could be the evil lady too. I think we could all equally be the evil.
As long as I have a past that justifies what I do.
There was one thing I wanted to mention that Painkiller Jane said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Sansa burning her bedding with her maiden's blood because she doesn't want to marry Joffrey. And then after the Blackwater, she gets her wish granted of not marrying him. Blood, intention.
Wow.
Witchcraft.
I never thought about
PKJ.
that.
Yeah.
Painkiller Jane's so smart.
She is a genius, man. She's great. She knows her stuff so well.
It's been on fire tonight.
Pale
really
fire.
Appreciated. Pale fire on pale fire. All the input you guys have put in the questions.
Let's see here. Last one. Mainstream hypocrisy again. I think we kind of talked about this.
We did talk
the
about
Dany
that.
being the witch archetype. I think she's all three. She's a Melisandre-like character.
Or Knight's Queen-like character. Just putting that out there.
Yeah. I actually think that this was a point I made in my video that I think is interesting with the way he's dealt with these characters is sometimes he creates total characters, like the Greek idea of Moira, the destiny as a whole. But other times he really splits them apart. Like Old Nan, it really is an Erd character. She sits at her well, which is basically the pool outside Winterfell, with Yggdrasil. She knows the past with perfect accuracy. And then there's other characters who are completely in the present, the mother character, and other characters who are totally only in the future. And the way he split them up and the way he uses them is fascinating, kind of like in the way that Robert is kind of like a fallen Thor character. he likes creating these fallen Fates and Norns as witches throughout his world.
I think that it also really depends on whose perspective you're seeing these witches through, like who's looking at them. Like one witch can be a mother witch to one character, like Cersei is very much, as I said before, like a mother witch type of character to Sansa, but not to her own children. So it really depends on the perspective that you're taking. And who's looking, like how I said earlier, it's mortals that make the immortal supernatural realm what it is. It's kind of us who create these archetypes as they are. It's how we see it. And I'm not saying that like Cersei is in the supernatural realm, but just that she has this power, this authoritative power over Sansa and in King's Landing. It's equivalent to these
robotic Lauren.
You're breaking up a little bit on that last sentence.
Yeah. All right. That probably matches how I'm feeling.
I told you after like an hour and a half, you start feeling the stream.
Try being LML's hand.
Oh yeah. So anyway, so
in any case, were there any questions that the panel would like to address? I think we've
exhausted witches.
Exhausted.
Did we get Pandowder's idea?
The what?
Outer Panda. The idea about characters turning to magic as analog.
Lauren covered that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Start again because it's my favorite thing, and I was so happy when somebody latched onto it. So I'm just going to read this comment from Outer Panda.
And you're locked.
Yep. Sanrixian, why don't you read the comments?
The idea about characters turning to magic as analogous to intellectual regression just hit me like a ton of bricks, by the way. And that's when Lauren went off and started speaking about the id, ego, and superego.
Correct. Nailed it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I guess I'm done.
I think we're good here. Let's do some outros. So why don't you guys plug all your things? Mallory, why don't you go first?
I am Mallory, also known as Sanrixian, better known as Sanrixian. You can find me on Twitter at Sanrixian. Sanrixian.com is my web store where you can get that super cool t-shirt Lauren's wearing right now. And apparently Steven also has it on today too.
Nope.
If you just want to look at my art, MalloryDorn.com. I have a ton of ASOIAF art on there. There's even on the left side, you can just filter it by that if you don't want to look at my dogs or other drawings or anything like that. And yeah, just talk to me. I like talking to people, judge me accordingly.
Mallory also makes all the art for my YouTube channel. So if you like that, you like her.
I did the 3 witches, and I do all of the art besides when I don't have time and you have to make your own, which you do a really good job with. I'm very proud of your Photoshop learning.
You can tell which ones are mine because mine are basically art with words on them.
So are the ones I do, just art.
Yeah, but art you make.
Oh, true. Yeah.
I don't do art. I do writing. I do music too. I'm planning to do some original music for A Song of Ice and Fire. Somebody asked me earlier if I was thinking about doing that when I was talking about my music background, and I definitely am. I'm really just getting started in creating stuff for the fandom. So I have a couple essays over on ShakespeareOfThrones.com, in addition to some rescriptings of Game of Thrones scenes and Shakespearean verse, which is kind of fun. And you can also find me at Shakes of Thrones on Twitter. And I think, I have a YouTube channel too.
Yes, she does. She needs more
YouTube.
subscribers.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
It was kind of adorable. After her video went live, Lauren was messaging me on Facebook being like, the numbers are going up. I was like,
I have 24.
It was very endearing. So for me, obviously, Joe Magician, you're here on my channel. Coming up next, me and Michael, otherwise known as Bookshelf Stud, are going to be talking about the resurrection of Jon as a vengeful character. I think a lot of people expect him to go the way of the show, where he's just kind of like, oh, that was weird. What happened to me? All right, I'm just kind of depressed. I'm going to go off and do my own thing. We're going to... The what?
I was dead for a minute there. What happened?
Yeah, me and Michael are going to go the other way and talk about northern legends and that they may have been planted as foreshadowing for Jon's revenge, basically, when he comes back from the dead. That's probably just going to be a live stream. I don't think we're going to make that a scripted video just because time, basically. You can also support me on Patreon. Benefits for that, you can get outlines for these live streams before we go. You can get audio of videos before they go live. You can get the unlisted links to the videos days in advance. You can also, this is something that I don't think a lot of my patrons know. For every video I release, if you want a custom version of any of the cards, you just have to send me a message and me and Mallory will take care of it. You can put whatever you want on them. You can ask for
sign it. I'll custom draw your name and like a little doodle or something just for you.
Yep. So that's the thing you can get. I wanted to say thank you to the new subscribers since new patron subscribers since the Waymar Royce video. Got a bunch since then. Let's see here. Mary. B1 Mary, she showed up. Anime Lover, Scott Carpenter, some guy named Jeff.
Ew.
Jeff did that. So thank you for everybody who signed up after that. We'll be all, as I think I've told a bunch of you, I'm in school at the moment, so that's why I've kind of slowed down what I'm making. But as we go towards the end of the year, you can expect things to speed back up. More videos, that kind of thing. You can also find me on the Maester Monthly podcast with Eliana, who's in the chat, and Bookshelf Stuff and the rest of the Song of Ice and Fire mods. On Watchers on the Wall, where I'm a feature writer, and I'm going down to Jersey City to cover the Fire and Blood release for them. So I'll be writing an article about that. That'll be pretty fun. And on Twitter at JoeMagician42. Oof! I did it. I said all the things.
You're
Titles.
Oh, and Con of Thrones coming up next year. Make sure you sign up for that.
And Ice and Fire Con, definitely.
Yep.
Today is the last day you can get your tickets for $80 for the full weekend pass. If you don't get them today, they're going to go up. So, FYI.
Yep. And for Con of Thrones, we've already submitted some panels for next year. Those should be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks for everybody for showing up on Halloween. We got up into the 60s, I think maybe the 70s at some point, which was pretty amazing. You guys did incredible in the chat. Thank you, Lauren and Mallory, for showing up.
Thanks for my first live stream, everybody.
It was a great coming out for Lauren. Coming out into
really
the fandom. She was. It was my Facebook chat with her was kind of interesting for like the 2 hours before this.
Don't dox her, dude.
Don't dox her?
Yeah, don't tell people stuff. She don't need to know. You don't need to know that. Lauren's perfect and amazing in every way, and she has no problems whatsoever. And she didn't even need you to be on this stream. So.
It's all true. This could have been her stream. I didn't need to be here.
Nobody else would have been here though. So I did need you. Okay, guys.
In a Fates kind of way. Triple guys. Anyway,
we needed 3.
We needed 3. This worked out very well. Okay. All right. Good night, everybody.
Bye.